Good morning, everyone. I hate to interrupt all the amazing conversations that were going on. That's really what this day is about. But want to make sure that we respect the time of everyone that's here and our speakers. We have an incredible day planned, and just thank you all for being here and braving the weather. Welcome to Recovery Day 2026. My name is Daniel Franklin. I'm the director of the Vermont Association for Mental Health and Addiction Recovery, and it's really amazing to see in our 87th year in operation what this event has become. I remember when I attended my first recovery day about 13 years ago, we were in room 11 up in the State House, and it was full, and I thought that was special. And today we had 288 people register to come here in person. And I was looking at the registrations, and there are people joining us from all across the country as well, looking at how Vermont does recovery. And really proud to see all of you here from across the continuum of care, from across the state, from all 14 counties, from every part of our system of care, and of course, many of us with lived experience. I want to center us for a second and just go off script and say I'd like to just have us all give a moment of reflection of gratitude. I would say probably the number one thing that has saved my life has been gratitude, and how fortunate I feel to be here and to celebrate with you all. I got a text this morning on my way here from a mother who was hoping to be here, and her son is currently missing here in central Vermont, having not been able to complete his program. And it just was a stark reminder of why we're all here and what we're working toward. And it also was a reminder of how blessed we are to be alive and to be here together. We're blessed to have a recovery community that gives back and lifts each other up. We're blessed to physically be here again after years of being separated by COVID. We're blessed to have braved the storm to be here. We're blessed to have the gift of time to be able to do this. We're blessed to share our lived experience and our example and be a source of hope for others. And that is honestly what means the most to me about the recovery community. And I think in many ways, this community of several hundred people in this room and several hundred around the country and around Vermont, we're each other's chosen family, beyond just blood and everything else. And so let's just take a moment to appreciate the gift of life and of hope and being together. I hope everyone leaves this day knowing that all around you are helpers and servant leaders and people with lived experience who are ready and willing and able to help share their experience, strength, and hope, and the promise of their example. We are creating change, making a difference, and with each passing day, there are more and more who join our ranks, who can act as a North Star for something better. Even in the darkest of places, there is light. Even in the greatest of adversities, there is hope. None of us are alone in our trials and triumphs. None of us are alone in our successes. We succeed in community with one another. Today is a day of celebrating recovery in all of its forms, all of its paths. It's also a day of remembrance of the friends and colleagues and loved ones we've lost, and the life and the work that we choose with them forever in our hearts and our minds. It's a vigil for those who are struggling and a promise to recommit ourselves to a life of service to others. It's a day of advocacy where we stand together to show not only that recovery and healing are possible, but that they're probable with the right supports and services available. Until no lives are lost to diseases of despair and all lives are valued without qualification, we cannot rest or relent in this mission. We've got a special day planned. We'll hear from a lot of elected leaders and allies. We'll celebrate some remarkable people who have made a difference in our community and in our field and the settings where we do life-changing work of recovery. We'll hear stories from peers in recovery, and we'll have an opportunity to share with one another what recovery means to us. Some of the ways that we're going to do that are some activities that we have this year. We wanted to add some really interactive activities. And the theme of this year is centering people, connecting systems. And over here, we have an activity where, and there are directions on the wall, where you can use a dot to indicate where you think you fit in your system and where you would like to have greater connectivity with another part of the system, i.e. recovery with prevention or treatment with interdiction or the judiciary, all sorts of different connections. We have a metaphorical tree where you can kind of indicate, and it really speaks to both the roots that we share and also the acorns, which is to say the seeds of hope and of all we have to contribute to one another. We also have the pieces on the wall where you can use Sharpies to write to the prompts. So we'll kind of pull some of these things together and share them out, but just take a moment to reflect. We also have the tables. Over here we have Lisa Allard and Into the Light. They're seeking submissions from folks and families who have lost loved ones. We need 6 more for the exhibit that will happen at the Brattleboro Museum later this year and then go on tour around the state. So if you have lost a loved one, please check in with Lisa and Into the Light, and also the other tables and resources that are available. There is food and water and other beverages back there. A note about media. You'll notice recovery has kind of gone big time all of a sudden. And so we have, of course, Orca Media live streaming this all over, and the recording will be available via Orca Media. We also have a documentary being shot about Chip Piper, who is doing absolutely tremendous things and feats of humanity, running this year 100 miles in memory of his son Michael, and raising money for recovery services in Vermont. We have multiple photographers around from various organizations. So I try to put some signage out, but if you do not want to be photographed, or if we can retroactively kind of get you out of any pictures, but just wear a red dot and we'll keep an eye on it, or you can talk to one of us that's involved in the event and we'll do our best to avoid that. But I did just want to let you know that there are some cameras and things. That being said, I recognize that so many of you are living authentically as people in recovery or people in healing or people with lived experience of various kinds, and we're excited to celebrate that. Couple of thank yous. Since I'm never going to win an Oscar, this is my one chance. I'd like to thank my mom, of course, for but our planning day committee, Susie Walker from Recovery Partners of Vermont, Martina Anderson from VAMHAR, my whole team, Lisa Lord, Will Roberts, Megan Blanche. We've got some volunteers that are helping out: Gregory Tatro from Jenna's Promise, Candace Gale from Vermont Foundation of Recovery, Eve Dolkart from DSU, Lex Arthurs from V4, Ariel Bolak from Kingdom Recovery Center. It just was magic. It was like started in December and suddenly it just came together very suddenly. We also, Eve and Kelly Morrill, a very long time supporter of our community, did a tremendous thing and got us some cupcakes, which is a tradition that has gone back a couple of decades, but what an incredible gift on their part. They're from Mangiabella and Jericho. So again, Eve and Kelly, who have just incredible people and partners in our work. We also have ASL interpretation for the first time for Recovery Day. So this is Joan and Joan Pellerin and Eric Darius, and we'll have another later on in the program. So thank you for this beautiful work that you do and making this accessible. We, last kind of remarks, we will be recognized on the floor of the House at 3:30 if anyone sticks around. Eric McGuire will read some remarks on the floor of the House. There is testimony going on all day over there as we speak and throughout the day from a variety of perspectives. It's safe to say, again, recovery has gone big time, and I use recovery in a very blanket sense, in the sense of our system of care, our field, and there's a lot of legislation that's out right now that we're affecting, and some very big investments are being made through Opioid Settlement Committee and others into recovery residences and other parts of the system of care. So it's a really amazing time to be in our field, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Just thank you for being here, for all you contribute, for being your authentic selves, for coming out like this. It's going to be a special day. Hang tight. Please take care of yourself. Bathrooms are down the hall to the right by the check-in desk. There is food and beverage. So just take care of yourselves, and we're going to have a great day. So with that, I'm going to bring up Susie Walker, the director of the Recovery Partners of Vermont.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a privilege to be here. I love Recovery Day. My first Recovery Day, I think, was in 2008 when I was on the board for the Turning Point of Windham County in Brattleboro. And it was all new to me. Peer recovery was also new to me then. And then I'm feeling a little nostalgic because a year ago for Recovery Day 2025, it was my first official day as the executive director for the Recovery Partners of Vermont. And so today I get to be here in a different capacity and help celebrate everything that's happening in our state with a few cheat notes. I'll say I have such a grateful heart. When I was driving up last night in awful weather, you know how when you're driving you have like this slow-moving caravan of cars and there's plows and everything going by, and I was at the front of the line several times, and it just intimidates me because I'm assuming everybody's wishing I would go faster. But then I suddenly laughed and I said, well, what if they're all going up to Recovery Day like I am? And there's just this wave of goodness descending on Montpelier. And so I just kind of let it go and drove between 25 and 40 miles an hour to get here. And it was all fine. And it was just really great to wake up this morning and know that we were all going to be together today. Both celebrating the amazing work that's happening around our state, to celebrate the lives that are changing in such dynamic and exciting ways, and to remember, as Daniel mentioned, the people who are no longer with us. And I would say, too, to remember the people who are, they're seeking recovery. I heard from one of our former coaches through email this week, somebody who's been having a rough go of it since COVID, which is a long time now. And it just, it just gave me tears of gratitude to know that connection, those seeds, those acorns, they live inside of us when we make connections with others. And it just touched my heart to hear from her, and I'm privileged to be here today. Let's see, I think you all know, but in case you don't, Recovery Partners of Vermont is a membership organization of recovery centers and certified recovery residences in the state. We work very closely with VAMHAR, and we're very grateful to them for leading the charge here with Recovery Day. And I got to work with the planning committee and all of the VAMHAR team, and I got to meet Megan, who's new to VAMHAR with their finance department, and I got to meet her in person today and talk with her. I was gone from Vermont recovery for a couple years, and in just that brief period of time, when I came back, so much had changed. I mean, grown in size and sophistication, and a lot of new collaborations happening. There's just connection happening everywhere. And it was so exciting. Whoops, I lost my cheat sheet. And some of this has been happening for a while. Recovery centers connecting with the rural areas with their satellite offices, recovery residences starting in communities that already have recovery centers, so that connection can be forged and people can be, carried from place to place as they journey in their recovery. And it's always so rewarding to see that many of our recovery system leaders and staff members at residences and centers were once program participants themselves or family members of someone. So this lived experience is such a part of everything we do. So I'm grateful that I get to advocate for the amazing work that you all are doing. That's part of something that's really grown a lot in the last few years since I was a director. And so we get to talk about the work that our recovery centers and recovery residences do, including the deep partnerships we have with treatment provider partners and the state and police departments and hospitals and schools. The connections just grow and grow, and it's so exciting. So I'm just going to tell you briefly about our legislative ask this year. We work to ensure that our recovery organizations have the funding they need to do the work that our communities need more and more of. We're asking the legislature to please renew the $800,000 recovery centers received in prevention funds last year. This renewal would level fund the centers and preserve the current services that are happening at a time when we're seeing increased demands. Recovery centers are much more than the centers, the buildings that they started out as. They are now this hub that has these spokes to all of the organizations I just mentioned. Recovery centers are also requesting that the legislators support the Vermont Department of Health's recommendations to appropriate $1.25 million in opioid abatement funds to continue the successful peer recovery coaching program that happens in our correctional system. Connection is the key to the success of all the work we're doing, and the connection at the correction system, and then helping people re-enter and connecting with probation or parole departments. All of that really helps ensure that people feel supported and cared for through this process. So we're requesting $1.75 million for operational support for the current residences and the new ones that will come online this year. We're also requesting $250,000 for scholarships. The scholarships help people who don't always have that first month of rent, or it takes them longer than a month to find a new job and they might need some additional support with rent while they're trying to get their footing. Certified recovery residences are working to scale this resource across the state. And the state, as you may have heard, has some very exciting plans to have, and honestly, I should have written it down, I think 400 some odd beds by 2030. So that's all an exciting part of what we're doing right now. With the addition of the Essex House Women's Program just earlier this month, Vermont Foundation of Recovery now has 79 recovery beds statewide. That's a 40% increase in capacity since September 2024. And then there's Bill S-157 in technical terms. This bill is to ensure that the law recognizes that recovery residences are different from typical rental apartments. That these recovery residences, when you live there, you have that community and connection, as well as programs and connection to resources. So we're working to have more stabilization beds in partnership with our clinical treatment services. And we're working on the language. Later today, several people with lived experience, most of them quite new in their recovery process, will be testifying to a joint hearing of the Senate Health and Welfare and the House Human Services. And they'll share about how these programs truly saved their lives and how they are now connected and able to contribute to their community and be the people they were always intended to be, and then be there to extend a hand to someone else who comes next. So that is what the Recovery Partners of Vermont are up to, legislatively speaking. And now it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Patty McCarthy. And I'm sure many of you know Patty. It's such a pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Faces and Voices of Recovery's Executive Director, Patty McCarthy. You may recognize her as last year's Legislative Champion Award for Recovery Day 2025, or you may know Patty from her years of dedication to Vermont's recovery system with Friends of Recovery Vermont, where she helped launch Vermont's network of recovery centers and recovery coaching programs, and collaborated with state agencies, treatment providers, and recovery centers to implement the RUSC system. Patty's very much part of the fabric of Vermont's recovery system. I met Patty when recovery coaching was just emerging as a promising practice, and look at where we are today in all these places around the state. And years later, I got to work with Patty at Faces and Voices of Recovery. And got to see her impact on the national landscape, the work she does with advocacy, especially the last year when there's been so much turmoil, federally speaking. She brings compassion and wisdom and sophistication to recovery work, and we're better for her efforts. Please welcome Patty McCarthy.
Good morning, Vermont. So good to be here with all of you. It's very exciting to be back here. I tell you, it has been a long time. I want to thank Daniel. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today, and the whole VAMHAR, your leadership for organizing this event and for holding space for recovery. This is opportunities to come together and show that recovery works and talk about the important issues, you know, what we need, what we thrive on, how we recover. And these conversations are honest, they're rooted in the community, and they're by people with lived experience. And I want to be sure to congratulate the awardees today. It's amazing to see the celebration that's happening here today. And I want to thank you for the award last year. And I was unable to be here, but it was great to be here in spirit and share my remarks with you on the video. So I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and that means that I haven't used alcohol or drugs in over 36 years. Thank you. I started my recovery here in Vermont as a teenager, and I went to residential treatment 3 times before I graduated from high school. Now that wasn't easy because there were no treatment centers for adolescents here in the state, but anyway, Vermont is amazing. You know, I talk about it all over the country, you know, and I'm just so thrilled for the resources that you have here. I say that about being in long-term recovery because if it wasn't for my recovery, I wouldn't be the wife, the grandmother, the mother, the homeowner, the taxpayer, the voter, the citizen that I am today. And that's what recovery does, and we need to explain it to people that don't understand, that don't know that recovery is possible. Like many people, my journey didn't follow a straight line. It was, in and out and up and down. And it didn't fit neatly into any one system. It moved through lots of moments of harm and healing. And through supports and gaps and services that may have helped, may have not helped. But everybody's journey is different, and how we get there is our own, and we take ownership for it. And that's what my recovery is like today. So I do want to acknowledge that I would not be here today, certainly would not be doing what I do today in Washington, D.C. and across the country, if it wasn't for my friend and mentor who hired me in 2003, Ken Libertov. Now, Ken was the former executive director of the Vermont Association for Mental Health before it became End Addiction Recovery. And I was the executive director. I was hired as the director of Friends of Recovery Vermont. At that time, I was working for the state of Vermont as a prevention consultant at the health department, but it was my lived experience that I used in that role, that I shared in my role as a state employee, which was wasn't as easy back then. Today we can do that. Today, because of the voices of you speaking out and talking about your recovery, we are everywhere. We're our friend. We're our, neighbors. We're everybody. There's recovery is everywhere. But working here in Vermont taught me a lot, and later at the national level, I learned what shapes recovery. How does it happen? It doesn't fail because people fail. It fails because the systems that they are built on fail. And they are built without the wisdom of the people with lived experience. They're built without the experience and the knowledge of what works for people in recovery. So my recovery didn't succeed because I followed a perfect model. It succeeded because I had relationships that filled the spaces where I had gaps, I had holes. I had things that were missing in my life. But lived experience is something that we have to bring into places of power, of policy, and decision making. Because it's the people that are closest to the struggle who are also closest to what works. Next slide. So we often say that stories matter, and they do, but lived experience is more than inspiration, it's infrastructure. So when we build things on that lived experience, we see that it humanizes things, it humanizes systems, and it changes them. It reshapes policy, it reshapes funding, it establishes accountability, and it's designed by the people who use it. So at Faces and Voices of Recovery at the national level, and I should stop and ask, just people, are you familiar with Faces and Voices of Recovery? No, I see some yes, some no. So we are a national advocacy organization. We've been around for 25 years. We are based in DC, and my office is in DC, and we have been working with Congress and federal agencies across the administration for decades. I spend a lot of my time navigating the legislation, the issues that come up, having to mobilize advocates to speak out, to call their members of Congress, to show up, to ring the phones off the hook. And nothing happens without that community activation and mobilization. So when you see the grant funding coming down from SAMHSA, that's because you have advocates that are trying to increase the block grant dollars, the money that goes to the state that then goes out to the communities. You have people that show up at the table at the advisory committees at SAMHSA, that try to preserve SAMHSA. So Faces and Voices is about a voice for the people in recovery and their family members and friends. We put a face and a voice on recovery so we can show that it works. We do a lot of other things, so I encourage you to visit our website and see what it's about, but that's at the core of it. It's an international movement. There's Faces and Voices of Recovery, Canada, Brazil, South Africa, United Kingdom. It's a movement. It's about, there's no other national organization that represents the voices of recovery like we do. So I'm really proud to be there and be serving in this role. I want to say that lived experience, like the voices of us in recovery, you family members, belong in governance. We're encouraging people with lived experience to get involved with public service, become members of your city council, your leadership, your legislature. We celebrate the people that are in positions of leadership that can share their own personal lived experience, because it matters. Lived experience is in governance, it's in policy discussions like Medicaid, it's in funding design, contracting decisions, and oversight. It's not just about telling our stories, it's about shaping the rules that determine who survives and who thrives. So, next slide. So nationally, we are in a moment of change, rapid change, every day. Just wait a minute and it changes. It's hard to keep up with. It really is. I think the one thing that I can say is that, my motto has always been stay the course. We have to stay on message. And the message is that recovery support services work. The message is that recovery community organizations need to be funded at the level that other functions of the system are funded. They've never been funded to the degree that prevention treatment are funded. I think that one of the things we're seeing is a rapid expansion in funding for community behavioral health centers. We're seeing more of across the country a reliance on Medicaid for fee-for-service, not only for treatment, but peer recovery support services. We see a lot of consolidation going on across behavioral health systems. And at the same time, we're seeing a critical evolution in how this country understands the relationship between harm reduction and recovery. Across the nation, there are systems, the most effective systems, the most effective programs in states and communities are moving away from these false choices, and they're moving towards connection. They're recognizing that harm reduction and recovery are not competing philosophies, but they're complementary approaches. They're rooted in the same values: keeping people alive, reducing suffering, creating pathways to stability and self-determination. That's what we all want. So at Faces and Voices, we work with states where harm reduction services are often the first point of trust, and recovery communities are where long-term healing and belonging take root. Nationally, we see again and again that these approaches are aligned rather than siloed. People engage earlier, they stay connected longer, and they experience better outcomes. But alignment doesn't happen automatically. These shifts are bringing real opportunity. They can improve access and stabilize funding and integrate care across the continuum. So nationally, we hear the same questions from recovery organizations and peer leaders, harm reduction advocates, and policy makers. How do we scale access without losing trust? How do we medicalize what needs to be medical without medicalizing community, culture, and belonging? How do we fund recovery and harm reduction services without forcing them to compete for survival? And how do we ensure that lived experience across the full continuum remains central as these systems grow? So these aren't abstract questions. They're playing out right now in states across the country, and they will shape the future of how we remain person-centered and become service-centered, or become service-centered. Next slide. So I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna try to. I would love to talk to you all day, by the way. So invite me back or do something. I'd love to tell you more about what's happening on the national level. But there's some things that I have navigated here, but also, many years ago, but also in other states, to helping states when they're first establishing recovery support services. And one of the biggest issues across the country is how recovery community organizations are navigating Medicaid. Like, it was never intended to be a thing where you had to start documenting every single thing and create it like or treat it like a clinician does. Peer support was never intended to do that. But now we're being forced to figure out how to do that with recovery organizations that don't have the technical infrastructure. They don't have technology. They don't know how to privacy on their health records and all that stuff. I mean, we have to learn it, and we're going to do it, right? But it wasn't designed that way. So recovery organizations were designed to build belonging, create culture. They're able to respond flexibly, meet people where they're at. And they earn trust from people who don't trust systems, often for very good reasons. So when recovery support is forced entirely into that fee-for-service model, we risk losing what makes it work: flexibility, trust, culture, and community. So if we're not careful, we'll fund recovery services but defund recovery communities. Does that make sense? Like, it really comes from the community, and that's the piece that's going to be missing, because other people will step in and co-opt what the recovery support services are, and we're seeing that everywhere. Next slide. So Vermont really is a national leader, and I can tell you this from my experience here, because back in 2001, when we were going community to community in different counties around the state and helping to bring people together to have conversations, those initial conversations about, do we need a recovery community center here? Who's going to do the work? Where's our people who are going to buy in? All of those meaningful conversations led to the development of the first national model of a network of recovery community organizations anywhere in this country. So you guys should be really proud of that. You know, nowhere else in this nation did you see that, and everybody looked to Vermont. And I did. I promoted it a lot, I have to tell you. I was awfully proud of that, so I would go to states and tell people, you got to look at what Vermont's doing. So our federal officials, our congressional leaders, everybody would be wanting to, demonstrate how great the work is that you're doing. It was my job in the beginning to start collecting the data, report that to the government, report it to the funders. We established the first data collection system, and we're still doing all of that today, but at the national level. So what we're doing at the national level, if you go to the next slide, is that we're working to ensure that Vermont's not the exception, but the blueprint. So there is a blueprint. You guys figured it out. And so the next slide. Really, we established policy asks this year for our members of Congress, and we would love for you to think about this because we need you. I held Capitol Hill Day last June, and we had a press conference on the Hill outside, and we had some usuals who always support us, Paul Tonko from New York, other members of Congress, but Representative Balance showed up big time. So she came out and spoke at our press conference. We had a lot of different people that showed up but it was across the aisle, and that's one of the most important things to know, is that Congress knows that this is not a partisan issue. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your beliefs are. It affects your families, it affects your communities, it affects everyone. So what we're doing is advancing a national imperative that recovery is not a niche issue. It's what our ultimate goal is. And when I say recovery, I don't mean just like the bigger lofty goal of, hey, I'm in recovery. It's really about recovery support services. So when I hired my federal affairs representative on Capitol Hill, I said, everywhere you see the word treatment in legislation, next to it, I want you to get "and recovery support services" into that piece of legislation. And that's his job. And that's why we're getting it recognized. You could look through legislation 10 years ago, you wouldn't see the word recovery very much. But now we see it everywhere. So we're advocating for sustained investment in community-based recovery supports, not just short-term grants. We're pushing for a 21st century recovery system that coordinates treatment, recovery, housing, peer support, harm reduction. We are calling for measures that for success that look beyond overdoses. They look at recovery. The latest National Survey on Drug Use and Health that asked the question, did you once have a problem with alcohol or drug use and no longer do? There's 23 million Americans in recovery. The way they answered that question. Yes. That's 1 out of every 10 adults over the age of 18 can say that they once had a problem with alcohol or drugs and no longer do. Now, how they define their recovery is up to them, but that's what the numbers tell us. So we're calling for measures of success that look towards housing, connection, purpose, and quality of life. We're working to align funding with recovery outcomes, not treatment outcomes or abstinence, but how did that improve that person's quality of life? Did they regain their relationships with their family? Did they resolve some maybe legal issues? Or is their health care they're taking care of their health now? They went to the dentist for the first time in 30 years. Those are the outcomes. Those are the things. They regain their relationships with their children. Those types of things are what we're measuring, what we think is important. So, next slide. The path forward. We're kind of in a fork in the road. One path that leads to systems that are managing the services, and the other that leads to systems that center people and people with lived experience. So Vermont has already shown the nation what's possible when recovery is community-based, it's peer-driven, and it's treated as essential to public health. So what happens next here and nationally will depend on whether we protect the vision as the landscape shifts, because it is shifting and it always will. But we need to stay the course. We need to remember that what you've built here has to be sustained, and the integrity of recovery and peer support is what matters. That's why this moment calls for not just good intentions, but for collective advocacy, a movement. This is the recovery movement. We are powerful. We have a strong voice in Washington, D.C., and here at the State House. I know that it's funny when you were talking about the cupcakes, because it reminded me that for the 10 years that I was organizing this event, we would buy this huge cake and go put it up in the State House cafeteria. And I don't know who remembers, but you would be given a piece of cake to go hand to a legislature and introduce yourself. That was the point of the cake. That was it. And it worked. It got people to meet people and sit down with them. Who's going to turn down cake? And even if they do, they're being polite about it. So you get to meet them and talk to them. And I could tell you, as far as I know, you're the only state house in the country without the guards and the security and all that stuff. But you can walk in here, and I always tell people it's the friendliest place. I worked through 3 different administrations here, and I could go into the governor's office and just have conversations. It was very, and then I appreciate the lieutenant governor being here with us today. It's very, it's great. It doesn't happen everywhere. So anyway, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but we need your voices. We need voices from Vermont and across the country to help shape federal policy. We need policies that fund recovery community services, protect peer leadership, and ensure that recovery support services are treated as essential, not optional. And it depends on you. If we do that together at the state and federal level, we don't just build better systems, but we build lives worth living. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here with you today. Have a wonderful day.
you so much, Patty. You know, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, and those who came before us and paved the way for us, the bushwhackers, as some of us would call, who get all the thorns. But Patty is definitely one of those, and there are many of those in this room. We're about to celebrate another one. I do just want to echo, you know, for me, like having politicians show up, you know, is great. What tells me that they authentically care is when they come, you know, outside of when they have to talk. And Lieutenant Governor John Rogers is here. We've got Dr. Hildebrand, the Commissioner of the Health Department, Deputy Commissioner Doherty. So many people who are taking the extra time to be here with us, and it means so much for you to be here. So thank you. I really want to express profound gratitude to the Vermont Department of Health Division of Substance Use Services, or Programs, DSUP, and also 802 Scoop Podcast, which is Raylene and Barry, and the Central Vermont Prevention Coalition, who really made this day possible, and of course all the supporters who contributed in other ways, but just this is all built on partnerships, and we're just so grateful for all the people who made such a special day possible, and for all of you who, you know, got hotel rooms, who drove through snow and just overcame the odds to get here. So next up, we are going to honor another person who has made a great deal of difference with the Peter Mallory Legislative Champion Award. And to present that, I'd like to welcome Tracy Hawk from the Turning Point Center of Rutland County.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Recovery Day. So I'm Tracy Houck. I'm the director of the Turning Point Center of Rutland, and I am honored to be able to present the Peter Mallory Legislative Champion Award today. And the Peter Mallory Legislative Champion Award recognizes a legislator or other distinguished individual who has demonstrated outstanding leadership and advocacy for policies that support addiction recovery and the well-being of individuals and families across Vermont. This award honors a commitment to championing equitable access to care, reducing stigma, and advancing meaningful legislative or policy change that strengthens Vermont's recovery systems. Isaac Dano is going to be the proud recipient of this award. I'm going to read his bio. Isaac Dano is a native of Thetford, Vermont. He began his career as a community health worker with the National Health Corps, where he helped connect individuals experiencing addiction with legal services and medication after release from prison. In 2022, he was appointed by Governor Phil Scott to lead public policy for Vermont's correctional system. In that role, Isaac worked closely with myself and Recovery Partners of Vermont to champion recovery for justice-involved individuals, embedding peer coaching into prisons and parole offices across the state, and securing millions of dollars in critical state and federal funding for Vermont's network of recovery centers. His key DOC work: championed peer coaching program and secured $1.5 million in state and federal funding to expand peer coaching statewide across Vermont's prisons and probation and parole offices. Woo-hoo. Advocated for pending funding packages from Senator Peter Welch and Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee in the amount of $3.25 million. Pushed the Vermont DOC to better align addiction care with the community standard, including offering Suboxone system-wide. Led successful effort for a special waiver from the Biden administration to expand Medicaid coverage to incarcerated Vermonters, smoothing out the reentry process and ensuring insurance is active at release for individuals picking up medication in the community. Partnered with Community College of Vermont with support from Senator Bernie Sanders to offer free college education for all incarcerated Vermonters and correctional officers. Now I'm done reading. On a personal note, I'm going to say that at my center, Turning Point Center of Rutland, we pioneered this work and piloted it back in 2016, going into Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility. I had pretty much given hope. And we didn't do it without any special money. We just kind of incorporated it. But the need was so great, and I kind of gave up hope that DOC would ever recognize that. So in 2023, when DOC reached out to me and Isaac reached out to me, I was rather skeptical. But I am just, that program means the world to me, as many of you know me. It means the world to me. The need is there. And Isaac was a champion in getting me in front of the right people to talk about that program, to be able to expand it, to secure the funding, and to be able to do this work. And this works. It works and it helps. And I am just so honored to have someone from DOC recognize that. And unfortunately, Isaac is not able to be here today to accept the award, or Kristen Calver, who have been champions. Chrissy's been a champion too. But I am honored to present him with that award. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for this incredibly meaningful award. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person this morning, but I'm deeply grateful to be a part of this day. As Nick Demmel and I begin our work on Rikers Island with Mayor Zoran Mamdani in New York City, I can tell you this. We will be looking closely at following Vermont's lead. We are committed to expanding recovery resources for New Yorkers in custody and to carrying forward the example this state has set. There are a few people I really want to thank today. First, none of this work would be possible without the vision and heart of Tracy Hawk. Tracy, I am endlessly inspired by your commitment to serving people so many others have left behind. Through thick and thin, and let's be honest, miles of red tape, you built this work from the ground up. It's been an honor to carry your vision into the State House. I also want to thank Susie Wilson, Gary DeCarolis, Dan Franklin, and the entire Recovery Partners of Vermont and VAMHAR teams. You've been tireless champions, advocating for funding, organizing recovery days, and helping legislators truly understand the power of recovery inside our prison system. To the Recovery Center directors across the state, and especially the recovery coaches who walk into our correctional facilities every single day, thank you. This is hard work, and it matters more than most people will ever know. I want to recognize the leadership at the Agency of Human Services and the Department of Corrections. Secretary Jenny Samuelson and her team, Shayla Livingston, former Commissioner Nick Demmel, Commissioner John Murad, and especially Kristen Calver and Aviva Teva. You have moved heaven and earth to make this work real. And at the State House, nothing in corrections happens without Representative Alice Emmons, the conscience of the legislature and a tireless champion for dignity in our correctional system. From our federal delegation, Senator Peter Welch and his team have been steadfast partners, directing federal resources and attention to recovery efforts in the justice system. Thank you, Senator. Most importantly, I want to thank the incarcerated people of Vermont who have embraced this programming and committed to recovery in an incredibly difficult environment. I wish you strength and success as you return home as our neighbors. And finally, I want to thank Haley Summer, who kept encouraging me to keep going, even when it felt like we might not get this across the finish line. Thank you all so much. I'm very honored, and I hope to see you very soon.
So Isaac was very casual about it, but just to be really clear about it, former Vermont DOC Commissioner Nick Demmel and Isaac have been hired to reform the New York State prison system, including all of Rikers Island and so and to Patty's point, I do think that it represents something about Vermont that in many ways we are small enough that we can do some things and spread them statewide and make reforms with relatively few dollars and relatively quickly. And later I'll talk about, I think, some of the monumental changes that have happened in the last 3 decades in our system of care. But to have those folks take their work to a major system and to enact reforms, I think is really powerful. We also, last year at Recovery Day, our keynote speaker was Catherine Burgum, who is about to celebrate her 23rd year in recovery. She is the former First Lady of North Dakota, and she was just appointed to be the co-chair of a national recovery initiative, $100 million going into recovery. And still remains to be seen what that will turn out, but I think we're well positioned to maybe do some advocacy there based on that relationship. I see Molly Gray here. So great to see you and have you here, Monica Hutt. We just have so many amazing people in the room, and we're just so grateful to have you here. Next up, we are going to have Writers for Recovery, and Gary Miller and Bess O'Brien, and they did an amazing film about the correctional system and COSAs. So if you wanted to touch on that a little bit, but welcome Bess and Gary for Writers for Recovery.
And if you want, you can share that, or there's also, yeah, let me turn it on.
Hello. Hi, I'm Bess O'Brien from Writers for Recovery. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for this wonderful event. We have been around for 11 years, Lord have mercy. And we are so happy to be continuing to do work in this field. We do writing workshops in all the recovery centers and turning points across the state, in every single prison, in residential facilities, in libraries. We have an online workshop that we've been running since COVID that has tons of Vermonters on it every week, plus people from all over the world now. So in this moment of, Vermont is the center and everything comes from us, we are spinning out into the universe, and we are very thrilled with that. I am a filmmaker. Probably many of you know my film, The Hungry Heart. I also made a film called Here Today, which was way back when, in the early days of Patty McCarthy. And I remember distinctly touring that film throughout Vermont and visiting the first recovery center down in White River Junction. They were just starting. We went to show the film there, and from there it just went gangbusters. So congratulations to all those incredible years of building up this system. So this is my partner. Where the hell are you, Gary?
I'm here.
This is Gary, and he's just going to tell you a little bit about what Writers for Recovery does, and then we're going to have a couple people read. So go ahead, Gary.
Hi, I'm Gary Miller, and as Bess mentioned, I'm her partner in crime in Writers for Recovery, and it's so great to look out here and see so many friends in the crowd. I love a friendly audience. We have been, for the past 11 years, going all around the state and online doing something that's relatively simple, and that is giving people short writing prompts and saying the following: there's no way to do it wrong, you have 7 minutes, ready, go. And what happens in those 7 minutes has been completely amazing to us and to a lot of people who've been involved with us. We have great discussions. People talk about things they've never spoken about to anyone, to their therapist, to their family. They get these things out, they air them. They have deep discussions about what's meaningful to them. They share pointers on how they're making it through their recovery and how other people might. And the other night we had just a fantastic experience at the group in Barrie. A young woman came in. I mean, she looked like she was ready to kill everyone on the face of the earth. And she was just having a really super hard day in her recovery, and she got a chance to write about it. And she left the workshop that night laughing. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to make happen. We're trying to welcome people in. If you know anyone who might be interested in our work, writersforrecovery.org is where you can find out all about us and our workshops. And we have a couple new things coming up. We're working on a podcast right now, a 3-part podcast. Maybe Bianca Zanella, who's one of our workshop leaders, will be talking about that in a minute. And we also, for the first time, are getting into prevention with high school students we'll be doing our first ever full high school workshop at Twinfield High School in the spring. So we are super excited about that. And I just want to thank everyone here who has provided support and fellowship to us in one way or another. We love you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you. So I just want to bring up Bianca for a moment. So we were very lucky to get a $40,000 grant from the Department of Health to focus on Rutland and Addison County, focusing on those areas. We are all over the state. Gary and I mainly do this part of the state, but we have people like Bianca who are holding down the fort in Rutland. She's going to tell a little bit about that program, and then we're going to have a couple people read.
Hey everyone, good morning. So my name is Bianca Mirazanella, and I am the paper poet. And so my whole mission is to decrease hardship and increase hardship. And I was so lucky to meet Gary and Bess at a recovery conference in 2023 and be able to integrate my poetic medicine healing into the Writers for Recovery structure and philosophy. And just this past year, as Beth said, we were able to get some funding with the Department of Health through VPLO, which is the Vermont Prevention Lead Organization, to do recovery and prevention and education work in an expanded way in Rutland and Addison counties. And so we've been able to do more culturally specific programming with teens, with folks in the LGBTQIA communities, as well as with older Vermonters over the age of 55. Because everyone needs that supportive services for maintaining their recovery and also for prevention too. So over the course of from July up until June 2026, we'll have done 70 workshops, that's 70, workshops in Rutland and Addison, yes. And that's expanded just from what we were able to do prior and what they have been building for, again, the last 11 years. So really exciting. And I'm just really excited to also have y'all hear what can happen and what the magic of being in a Writers for Recovery workshop can be. So I'm really pleased to introduce one of our participants. His name is Tim, and he's been coming to our Rutland Writers for Recovery workshop at our Turning Point Center, where Tracy is also leading the front. And so, I just want to say a little bit about Tim. Tim is also the Executive Director of Common Ground Recovery, Inc., and the founder. But more than that, he is such a joy to be in workshop with. He always actively listens and is really able to be present and reflect back, which is part of the magic of Writers for Recovery, in that we are really seeing and hearing each other maybe for the first time, and being able to really recognize our humanity with dignity and respect. So please put your hands together and welcome Tim Macchiani.
That kind of felt like a come on down, the price is right. Bear with me here for a second. All right, so this is a piece that I wrote in the Writers for Recovery workshop. I titled it The First Green Shoot. All right, so here we go. The frost had lingered longer than expected. For months the ground was hard, the sky gray, and the air heavy with silence. Beneath the surface, unseen, unheard, something was stirring. Then one morning, a single green shoot broke through the soil, small, fragile, but alive. It didn't roar, it didn't rush, it simply reached. That's how recovery begins, not with fireworks, but with a quiet decision to grow, to believe that even after the longest winter, warmth will return, that we are not defined by what we've endured, by what we've chosen to become. Hope isn't loud, it's steady. It's the hand we offer, the breath we take, the step we try again. And today, that's enough.
as Gary said, we give somebody a prompt, they write 7 minutes, that's all, then they read it and we talk about it. The next person I'm going to bring up is Randy DeVoyd. He is somebody in my I've been running a St. Johnsbury Writers for Recovery workshop for years and years. I love the people there, and it's at the Recovery Center in St. J. So welcome, Randy.
Good morning, friends of recovery. I would be a fool to stand up here if I get emotional. I just want to say thank you to everybody in the service you do. Because without you guys, I wouldn't be here today. This was not put in my picture at all. So thank you. From Valley Vista to Serenity House to the recovery centers to Higher Ability to the recovery coaches. I owe this today to you guys. So thank you very much. And to Ben. And to Ben for putting himself out there and showing recovery is possible. Because that's the biggest piece here, right? So thank you. So the prompt she gave me was being there. And it's not very long. Being there is better than not. Uncomfortable chairs, shitty coffee. Sorry about that. We know that's true. It beats the alternative, and it keeps me in the present. Do the uncomfortable and surrender the outcome, you would always say. Be there 10 minutes early, stay 10 minutes late. If I wasn't there, I'd be stuck with the worst person ever, me. I can surely talk myself out of being there, proving facts. Being there has kept me here, so I think I'll just keep going there. Thank you.
Awesome. So you can give one prompt. You can give one prompt, being there, and you can have 10 different people write in different, what that means to them. So awesome. Okay, I'm going to just read you one more piece. This is from somebody who, and Gary's going to read people who are in prison, but this is from a young woman a number of years ago. I just love this poem. The human demands proof of God. What a prompt that is. Here's what it would take to convince me that I am not as hopeless as I think, and that you, higher power, are everything you say you are. One more promise, one more embracing of my brokenness, one more assurance that all is not lost, and that every moment is a spark rising from what I thought was ashes. Silly human, what was I thinking? All this and more you have given me like fireflies in the night, shining stars at my fingertips. Thank you.
It's apropos to segue from Writers for Recovery, a previous award winner of the Jack Berry Communications Award, to present our next Jack Berry Communications Award. And to do that, I'll welcome up Dr. Joshua Sherman.
Good morning, everyone. Growing up, my parents always told me and my sister, the verdict is always out. In other words, you never really know how things will come to be. You never know how it's going to end. As a kid, I was arts-driven, and I never planned on being a doctor, but here I am, a medical doctor. And when I opened Old Mill Road Recording Studios in 2018, I couldn't have predicted that Benjamin Lerner would walk into my life, that we would meet, and together that he and I would collaborate on a national campaign to make a difference in the opioid epidemic via music and media. A doctor and an addict, a producer and an artist working together to make a difference. And it's been a very powerful message. I want to thank Daniel for asking me to present this award to Benjamin, this year's Jack Berry Communications Award, which honors Benjamin's courage in sharing his story, his lived experience via words and music, reducing the stigma of addiction, really inspiring others to connect and not lose hope. As a publisher, I know that media plays a very important role in shaping public opinion, including that of addiction. And Benjamin's National Clean campaign has harnessed the power of both music and media to really change lives. Through his written columns, original music, his live performances, and his social media platforms, he has reached literally hundreds of millions of people. These are people actively struggling with addiction, people who are struggling in recovery, people in long-term recovery, family and friends of those who've lost loved ones to addiction. And perhaps most inspiring, through his advocacy, Benjamin, a former heroin and crack cocaine addict, has been able to scale his way to the National Health of Medicine to speak. He'll be celebrating his 10th year of sobriety this June. He is engaged to his lovely fiancée, Alex, has 2 babies already in-house and then a 3rd on the way. And he's actually received a standing ovation at Carnegie Hall. And none of this would have ever happened, large or small, without recovery. And I guess, in other words, I want to say that once again, my parents were right. The verdict is always out. And as we celebrate Vermont's Recovery Day, I think that's a really important message for all of us to remember. The verdict is always out. On a personal note, Benjamin always embarrassingly thanks me as his mentor. He and his mother regularly say that I've saved his life, changed his life. But what Benjamin always fails to recognize is that he's changed mine. So what I want to say is it's really a great honor, and thank you for recognizing Benjamin's efforts. Let me introduce you to Benjamin Lerner. I don't know if I'm supposed to give this to you before or after, but I want to give you the stage, so.
Big wooden plaque. Big wooden plaque. Photo op. I love you, Josh. I'm really tall, really lanky, really awkward, and don't really know how to position myself for this mic, so y'all gotta bear with me. I want to thank, obviously, Dr. Joshua Sherman. He inspired me when I first connected with him in 2018. It was several days after his studio opened, but what many people might not know, even though you hear my horrendous mid-Atlantic flatlander accent, is that all of the most beautiful moments in my life and my recovery that shaped me into the man I am today, 9.5 years sober, one day at a time, is all happened in the snow in Vermont. I remember my dad built a cabin in Sandgate, little holler town in southwestern Vermont on the New York border off Route 313. And I was 10 years old, little city boy, skinnier and more gangly and awkward than I am right now, if you can imagine that. And he had me, to his credit, hauling my backpacks up this little plastic sled up this old logging mountain access road where all of his, old Vermont neighbors told him he was crazy to build a house, and he was, because here I was lugging this sled up. And I learned 2 lessons that day that my time in my hometown of DC never taught me, which is why Vermont has always been and will be my spiritual home and the home for my recovery. See, there was a real bad snow and ice storm, and my dad was further up than me, and he could have helped me, but he told me, you can do this. Keep moving forward one step at a time through this storm. And then we got to the top, and the wood stove wouldn't start, and the power was out. So I learned another lesson. When we walked back the third mile down that road to go to his neighbor's house, and we had no phones, and I said, Dad, they're not going to know we're here. He said, well, that's what people do in Vermont. They show up for each other. You don't need a phone call. If the light's on, you wave your hand, and they will help you out. And it was absolutely unbelievable to me. That was when I was about 9 years old. Fast forward 15 years later, I'm in the Tenderloin of San Francisco out on Turk Street, shooting black tar, smoking crack, and I'm picking cigarettes out of the gutter and food out of the trash. And I'm walking up a different type of hill. And my dad that day met me outside. He met me where I was at, like the incredible harm reduction workers do throughout the state of Vermont and throughout the country that's been touched on. We need to meet people where we're at. And he knew that I was struggling, and he knew he couldn't help me, but he said, just keep moving forward through it, just like you did on that snowy slope. Fast forward a couple months after that, and I'm in an inpatient treatment center. I had the rig in my arm when I called that treatment center, but I called him. And that was the best decision I ever made in my life. And a year into my recovery, my dad gave me the keys to the house he built with his bare hands in Sandgate, and he said, I trust you. I love you, and the door is always open. And I thought back to that scared little kid up on that sled, and I was more scared than I ever was to look my dad in the eye unmedicated and tell him how sorry I was for what I did and how I broke his trust and how he would never understand. But see, another beautiful thing happened a year later when I thought, I have more than I could ever want in my recovery. I have my life back. I have a job in the service industry. I have a peer support job. How could this possibly get better? I have everything I need. And I went up to Vermont, first frost, November of 2018, and I played a song I'd written about my recovery for my friend. And he said, I know a guy with a studio. And I was like, okay, I was expecting someone with a Tom Selleck mustache and a keyboard and a microphone up on the wall, but that was not it. It was a $1 million glass pane studio with this handsome gentleman standing right there. But what was really incredible about it, separate from the aesthetic studio and all that, was something much deeper, which is I told my story of recovery, and he recognized me and kept the same open door that my Vermont neighbors did on that day when my dad was in the snow. And when I came to Recovery Day the first time in 2020, before the pandemic, claimed the lives of so many of my friends who died from fentanyl poisoning and felt so disconnected, I came here and I met people working in treatment, working in harm reduction, working in advocacy. Shout out to the OG advocate, Ed Baker, by the way, right here. Shout out to him for speaking for the people who cannot speak for themselves. And just like they said, the State House is open. I connected with so many incredible people. Dr. Mark Levine, incredible friend of Recovery Day, can't be here today, but I texted him and he said, shout out to everyone there. I love this event so much. He's taking some time with his family. Colonel Jim Baker, former Commissioner of Corrections, and as a result of the work that I did with Dr. Sherman, I managed not just to talk to these people, but invite them on the first of its kind recovery advocacy radio show. Shout to 102.7 WEQX in Southern Vermont. They let a recovering addict on the radio speak about addiction, recovery, and all paths of recovery there. And I know I'm droning on, but I'm going to just keep this real simple and say, the last moment that I had in Vermont in the snow is the reason why I am receiving this award. And there are not enough people I can thank. So Daniel, thank you so much for even considering me for this award, this Flatlander, this person whose life has been so touched by this state and this incredible community. When I was 6 months into a new journey, which parallels a lot of the things in recovery, the sleepless nights, the not knowing what you're doing, my first son, Jude, was born 6 days before my 6th recovery anniversary. I was so scared. And someone told me that there was recovery content online, the same way that there can be recovery support groups, harm reduction spoke offices, things like that. And my recovery support group was undergoing a moment of crisis where people were mad at each other, and it's incredible to have that support, but I didn't know where to turn. And the same way I used to open up my phone to call my plug or call my using buddies, I saw an inspiring message of recovery flash across the screen, and it made me know that I wasn't alone when I was changing my little boy's diapers thinking I didn't have what it took. And the same way that I picked up that sled on that mountain all those years earlier, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to make it through it and channel my pain into purpose, but I picked up that phone the same way I did to call the treatment center. And I did a little video with my dog and my weird green coat and all that. And not nearly as beautiful as the incredible studio this guy made, but the thing about it is, right, whether you're doing it on a phone, whether you're doing it face-to-face at a recovery center or an inpatient treatment center, whether you're doing it in any capacity, every single person in here is doing the frontline work and the advocacy work that doesn't get seen on phones, that doesn't get celebrated nearly enough. So if nobody has told you today, every single person, from the treatment workers, prevention outreach workers, harm reduction workers, and advocates on every level, you are the unsung heroes that are saving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives on a daily basis. And I want y'all to clap it up for yourselves right now. Because apart from any piece of content that gets seen, the real content of character is the work being done in this room. And for that, I am truly grateful that you have given me this blessing and this award for recognizing that lived experience matters, all paths of recovery and harm reduction matter, and one day at a time we can do this. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
So folks, you'll notice that I did not give you timings on your agendas because I didn't want you to hold me to it. But we're going to take a very short break. So just stretch your legs, get some food and beverage, go to the bathroom, but let's really reconvene as quickly as possible because I know we have some folks who are on the timeline. So just take a moment and then we'll come back together. No later than about 10:35. Thank you all for coming back here. Next up, want to give a shout out to something Patty said, you know, that the State House is the people's house. And thank you. And I think one of the manifestations of that is when you can walk into the Lieutenant Governor's office. You know, I think sometimes the open door policy might not might take it a little too literally, but just so you know, the Lieutenant Governor's office serves Jenna's Promise Roasting Company coffee, which is made by people in recovery from our team over here at Jenna's Promise. So literally go to the Lieutenant Governor's office and you get to help support recovery. So we're just grateful that the Lieutenant Governor was first on board to make that happen in the new administration. So without further ado, the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont, John Rogers.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to all of you. I met Daniel first at Jenna's Promise. They're really doing magnificent things. And to see how far we've come in recovery in really a relatively short time is amazing. And it's thanks to all of you. And I've said this over and over, every single person that is struggling with substance use and that makes a recovery and returns to their community and becomes a productive citizen of the state of Vermont is a small miracle. And when I look around this room, I see how big a miracle all of you guys are. And so I just want to thank you for your contributions. As Daniel said, I do have an open door policy. I love meeting with Vermonters and hearing from them. And S-157 is a bill that started in my committee, in my office, when a group down here for Recovery Day came into the office to talk about needs. And one of the folks in recovery housing said that right now it is really hard sometimes to get a person who has brought substances into the recovery house out of the recovery house before they take other folks down. And so I said, well, tell me what you need, and I got a senator to sponsor it. We got it drafted. It's moving through the process. We're hoping that by the end of the year it'll be signed by the governor. So if any of you have issues that you think need to be addressed, my door is open. All you need to do is call or email my chief of staff. We'll get you in. I act as an advocate for all Vermonters and have a good relationship with legislators and the governor and know how to get things done in the building. So that offer stands open. Really been exciting touring around the state, visiting Ben's house and Journey to Recovery, and visiting my neighbor Betsy up at Higher Ability, and to see, you know, what's happened. It takes a community, and to hear the great things that are happening, especially when folks are coming out of our corrections facilities and able to get into a recovery house and work with folks like Betsy to not only get a job when they get out, but to chart a career path, to feel that they're part of the community. Because, you know, I think we lose a lot of people to substance use when they don't feel part of the community, when they don't feel they have a purpose, they don't feel their self-worth, they maybe don't have good job prospects. So it's just so essential that when they come out of the facilities that they have that support. And it's pretty amazing to see what we have here. And really, my hope is, as long as I'm in elected office, to continue to support recovery and the systems that we're building, and to make sure that every community has access, because we know that need's there in every community. So I know you've got a lot of other speakers to get to, and I've got an appointment shortly, so I am not going to linger. But thank you so much for having me, and please feel free to reach out to the Lieutenant Governor's office anytime I can help.
And now for a really special moment here, I'd like to welcome our Chief Prevention Officer from the Office of the Governor, Philip B. Scott, Monica Hutt. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I love this day. I know I have stuff I'm supposed to read, but I just need to say I'm always so inspired and a little emotional when I'm here. So thank you for that, because sometimes you just really need it. So it is my sincere pleasure to be here today with all of you to honor and to celebrate the work of individuals, of families, of communities, of providers towards recovery for all. Every year that I'm here, I tell you that this is my favorite event, as I just did. And every year it's true. And I think it's because this day is about hope, right? It actually lets you see what's possible, what's probable when we're all working on this together. It's about the recognition that although recovery is uniquely personal, it's really all about community, about this community. And it truly epitomizes for me that idiom of it takes a village, because every person in recovery is backed by their very own village. And that's kind of an extraordinary thing when you think about it. From Governor Scott's perspective, for this administration, our goal is to make sure that every person who's working towards recovery has that village. And sometimes that happens organically. Sometimes government doesn't need to be involved. Thank God. But sometimes it happens all on its own. But other times we do need government to be part of it. We need that village to be built and funded and sustained as part of an overall system. And you'll see, you heard a little bit about legislation that's happening nationally, a little bit about legislation that's happening now. But this year, the governor has built recovery into multiple aspects of the work in front of the legislature right now. So as part of our budget, it's around recovery and addressing homelessness. For part of the funds from the opioid abatement, the settlement funds, there are recommendations from the Department of Health and from the committee itself around recovery funding. We built recovery and the concept of recovery and a village into the rural health transformation funds, those funds that just came from the federal government. And you'll see lots of different pieces of legislation and supports as we continue the work to slowly and steadily, I was just talking to Melinda about this, quietly kind of build the system of care that we really need to have. And like recovery itself, it takes a village to make all of that work. So we are counting on the governor, on the executive branch, and all of those individuals in state government across the state. We're counting on our legislative colleagues. We're counting even on the judiciary to know how to use the resources that are put in front of them appropriately and to make a difference, one individual, one family at a time. Part of that effort is reducing the stigma and fear of substance use disorder by naming this illness and naming definitively the probability of recovery. And the governor is particularly proud to do that today by proclaiming this day, February 11th, 2026, Recovery Day in Vermont. And now it is my honor to share with you his proclamation for the day, and then I will hand it off to Daniel to have for the day. Whereas alcohol and substance use disorder, mental health needs, and co-occurring conditions affect millions of individuals, as well as their families, friends, and communities. And whereas Vermont has made meaningful progress in reducing fatal opioid overdoses through the combined efforts of dedicated nonprofits, state agencies, healthcare providers, and community leaders whose innovative partnerships have strengthened prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery systems statewide. And whereas Vermont continues to experience public health and public safety concerns from evolving drug supplies, domestic and sexual violence, housing insecurity, poverty, and adverse outcomes related to alcohol and other substance use disorders, and whereas people living with these conditions deserve multifaceted support and hope, including a community that supports them, their families, and their unique path to recovery. And whereas Vermont recovery centers, recovery residences, and peer services, such as recovery coaching, and all of their staff provide judgment-free, compassionate, evidence-based, and life-saving support in Vermont. And whereas the health, well-being, and quality of life of some Vermonters are impacted by chronic yet treatable health conditions, which can be exacerbated by inequitable access to safe, affordable housing, healthy food, transportation, childcare, and other social determinants of health. And whereas Vermont's Recovery Day is designated to remind all Vermonters that alcohol and substance use disorders and co-occurring conditions respond well to evidence-based and timely interventions, including the support from peers who have had their own unique recovery experiences to lean on, I, Philip B. Scott, hereby proclaim the 11th day of February 2026 as Recovery Day in Vermont. Give yourselves a hand.
This is for all of us. Okay, so I'm going to put it back there. Please feel free to take a picture of it. Take whatever you want. And this is for all of us. And it's taken a long time for us to get to the point where we have such amazing things. So, we talk about hope and loss, and I think all of us are driven, in part by not only the desire to share our experience, strength, and hope to help others so that they never have to experience maybe what we have. And we are driven to help others because we see the beauty and the value of human life. And so to honor those flip sides of the same coin, I'd like to welcome my friend and winner of the Jack Berry Communications Award previously, host of the Addiction Recovery Channel, and just amazing person, Ed Baker.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Can everyone hear me? Thank you, Daniel, for your kind words, your friendship, your leadership. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I want to recognize the people who have been at the podium this morning for setting in motion a beautiful, powerful momentum. I want to recognize the award recipients for their hard work, their advocacy. Thanks for the shout out, Benjamin. I'm Ed Baker. I'm a person in long-term recovery from severe alcohol and drug use disorder since October of 1984. And that sound, that love resonates powerfully with me. Thank you. I'm otherwise known in the secret rooms as Eddie B. So it's 41 years in recovery, a lifetime. And I've come to understand a few things. And this morning, I want to share one of them with you. The truth of the matter is that my recovery began long before October of 1984. And what I've come to understand is that the recovery journey begins with the faintest whiff of a person's desire to harm oneself less. Now, that desire can, and very often does, live within the person, within the prison of addiction, surrounded by suffering. This can be for a very, very long time, and some of you know that. Before it achieves connection with other people like you, before it achieves traction, before it begins to lay down its beautiful roots, it lives within the person, sometimes within the person's addiction. Its course is not smooth. Its course is never linear. Its course is never predictable. Its course is as varied as the population of people who suffer from addiction, stigma, and the war on drugs. It's the gifted like you who can see recovery in its various stages, struggling, inching forward, unfolding, blossoming, tumbling backwards, begging for support, crying out for love. It's the gifted like you, the ones with unconditional safety in your hearts, who can see recovery in all its beautiful forms. It's the gifted like you whose inner worlds shine brightly. North stars of example, each and every one of you, beacons of hope in a very dark night. Nothing can dim the light which shines from within. That's Maya Angelou. Nothing can dim the light which shines from within you. Compassion is in the hearts of its beholders. Its warmth and its light are unmistakable. We're here today to affirm this in each other, to see this in each other, to appreciate this in each other, and to find each other. We represent all approaches to this public health emergency that we face daily. Prevention, education, treatment, recovery, mental health, public safety, medicine, harm reduction, state and local government, faith-based volunteer and peer groups. We are everywhere, and we are many. We are both people with lived experience and people without lived experience who just plain get it. And there are many, believe me. Our feet are on the same ground. We stand shoulder to shoulder. We stand face to face. We stand broken heart to broken heart. We share the same intent. and our shared intent has accomplished much over the course of our work together. Now, within our shared accomplishments, and again, they are many, and regardless of our deep commitments to those suffering from the harms of drug use among us, there persists an unacceptable reality. Over the past decade, it's estimated there have been over 1,500 of us here in Vermont taken by accidental drug overdose or substance use passing, the loving term used by Kimberly Blake and her beautiful, beautiful group of team sharing parents. And this continues today. Each and every one of these 1,500 of us is someone's one and only. Someone's only one. Needless to say, this is unacceptable. This is the tragedy of our lifetime. We must do better. It's for these lost loved ones that we join in our reverent moment of silence. In our shared silence, we commit to the relentless pursuit of a better world, a better reality, a world where people who use drugs in a harmful manner and need our help are met with our love. Please join me in silence. Thank you.
And now to reflect upon the incredible work going on to change this narrative and to take us forward are two incredible people. Our Deputy Commissioner, Kelly Doherty, who is also the co-chair of the Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee, and Dr. Rick Hildebrand, the Commissioner of the Vermont Department of Health. And we're so excited and thankful to have you here. So, Kelly.
Thank you, Daniel. Ed, that was beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to echo what Monica said. I love this day. I always walk away from here feeling so inspired and uplifted. And it's so wonderful to see so many familiar and friendly faces here today. So thank you all for being here. In my short time being so close to this work, it's only been about 7 years since I've been in this position. I have seen such tremendous change. I want to echo some of what Patty shared in her address earlier. Like, I really feel like we are at a turning point, no pun intended. To see our treatment providers and our recovery providers and harm reduction folks all coming together in ways that they haven't before. You know, I want to recognize that, you know, we've got Valley Vista, we've got Recovery House in the room, which is incredible. The work that the recovery centers have been doing over the last couple of years with respect to the new certification process for peer recovery coaches, as well as for recovery service organizations, is amazing. And I know it has not been easy. And I know that there's still a lot of work to be done in that area, but it really is moving the recovery movement forward in such new ways. So I want to thank all of you who are engaging in that work, because like I just said, I know it has not been easy. And I want to thank our team at the Vermont Department of Health who is working with the recovery centers on that effort. It's really incredible to see. In addition to my professional work in this area, this is personal for me. I lost my father to substance use, in particular alcohol use disorder, when I was in my early 20s. So I bring a personal piece to this work, and I deeply care about it. So I want you all to know that we are here for you at the Department of Health. We are committed to recovery and the entire substance use system of care, and are working so hard to just improve it in every way that we can. And with that, I'm really pleased to introduce our new, I think I can still say new, Commissioner of Health, Dr. Rick Hildebrand.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly said she's only been doing this, she's new for 7 years. I've been here for 4 months, okay? So I'm really new, although I've been caring for folks with substance use disorder my entire medical career, almost 20 years. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you for the Vermont Association of Mental Health and Addiction Recovery and to Recovery Partners of Vermont for hosting today and inviting me to share a few remarks. It's truly an honor to stand with you on Vermont Recovery Day. Today is about far more than awareness. It's about people. It's about courage, resilience, persistence, and the extraordinary capacity for humans to heal. And that was on full display today, as we heard from so many amazing speakers. Throughout my career as a physician, I've seen firsthand the impact substance use can have on individuals and the people who love them. I have seen something just as powerful, though. I've seen recovery. I've seen how people can reclaim their health, reconnect with their families, rebuild their lives, and rediscover hope. As the commissioner for the Vermont Department of Health, I spend a great deal of time with data, with rates, trends, charts, projections, and these numbers matter. They help us understand the scope of substance use, and they guide our prevention, treatment, and policy efforts. But days like today remind us of something equally important. Behind every statistic is a story, a friend, a neighbor, a parent, a child, a Vermonter. And here's the truth. Recovery is not rare. It's not the exception. It's happening every day across Vermont, in our cities, in our smallest towns, in our homes, our hospitals, our recovery centers, our workplaces, and our faith communities. Recovery doesn't just look one way. It can include medication. It can be abstinence-based. It can take many forms. It can be celebrated publicly or carried quietly. What matters is that it is real and that it is possible. Public health teaches us that substance use disorder is not a moral failing. It is a chronic, treatable health condition. It is shaped by trauma, by housing instability, by access to care, by employment opportunities, and the fundamental human need for connection. When we move from judgment to compassion, from punishment to support, outcomes change. Lives change. Vermont has shown us what's possible when we lead with that understanding. Recovery coaches are embedded in all 14 of our hospitals. Recovery centers across the state support parents, families, and individuals at every stage in their journey. Transportation services help get people to treatment and to work. Harm reduction programs save lives and create pathways to care. We are expanding access to residential treatment and centering people with lived experiences in shaping solutions. Our recovery community is strong. But there's more work to do, and progress only happens when we work together. To those in recovery, thank you. Your courage and your honesty inspire us. Your presence here is proof that healing is possible. To families and loved ones, your support makes recovery sustainable. You walk this journey, alongside someone else, often quietly, without recognition, and that matters deeply. To advocates, providers, and community partners, thank you for building systems rooted in dignity, evidence, and care. And to anyone who may be early in recovery or uncertain about taking those first steps, you belong here. Sorry. Help is available. Recovery is not a straight line, but every step forward matters. Let today remind us that recovery is not only a personal achievement, it's a public health success. It's a community commitment. It's a shared responsibility. Thank you again for VAMHAR, Recovery Partners of Vermont, and thank you all for showing up, for supporting one another, and for believing what we in public health know to be true. When we invest in people, communities thrive. Thank you.
Wow. Next time, I bet some people might wonder, hey, what the heck does the state treasurer have to do with recovery? Honestly, I try to get Mike in front of every microphone I can because he is one of the most authentic, decent people that I have ever met in my life. And he brings himself every single time. He brings the heart, he brings his true authentic self, and that's a quality I respect most about the recovery community, and that's what I respect about Mike. He's a part of our extended family. If you ever get a chance to watch the Howard Center conference speech that he gave, it was one of the most powerful mental health speeches, but Mike has just been a tremendous ally, and he just shows up. Sometimes I think he's pulling a Barney Flintstone and being in multiple places at once. So just an incredible person, the State Treasurer of Vermont, Mike Pichak.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel. I was worried I might start tearing up during my speech, but not before my speech even began. But I really just want to say thank you so much for having me. But more importantly, I want to say thank you to all of you that are here, everyone that is a provider, everyone that is a mental health support provider, everyone that's a peer coach, everyone that is a leader in your community, the work that each and every one of you is doing each and every day. It's not just changing lives in your community, it's saving them. And as we heard from Ed Baker, we have a lot of work to do on making sure we are saving every life we can here in Vermont. It's really hard to imagine other work that's more critical and important than the work that you're doing every single day. And to those that are here with us that have lived experience, I also want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to be here. Thank you for having the courage to walk the path of recovery. Thank you for having the courage to stay in recovery. And most importantly, thank you for having the courage, really the extraordinary courage, to be here to share your story with other people so they know that they're not alone. And by sharing your story, you are giving other people courage and hope, and you're ensuring that here in Montpelier, we make better decisions and we make better policy. So your experience, your stories are so critical. Thank you for being here and for sharing them. Now, in my opinion, when we're talking about recovery, it starts with a really simple belief. And that belief is this idea that everybody matters and that everybody deserves dignity. And for me, that belief is really personal. I learned it when I was a kid, growing up in Brattleboro. My parents were very involved in the Brattleboro community. They gave back and helped people at almost every opportunity that they had. My dad was a small business owner, and he was really big on making sure we spent our money locally in Brattleboro, that we kept our money local, that it supported our community. It meant that every Saturday morning we had to go to this diner on the end of Main Street that didn't have very good food. And the silverware was never particularly clean. And I had to ask my dad, why do we have to come here every Saturday? There's other options. And he said, because they're my client, and they show up for me, and I'm going to show up for them. And he lived that value in other ways. He helped raise money so we could have lights on the football field in Brattleboro, so we could have this community event of Friday night football games. He helped raise money so we could have a teen center in Brattleboro, so kids had a safe place to hang out after school. He helped raise money so we could expand our golf course in Brattleboro from 9 holes to 18 holes. And again, on that one, I was about 15 years old, and I had to ask him, Dad, you don't even play golf. Why did you spend so much time on this project? And without really thinking about it too much, he just said, Brattleboro has done so much for me. Brattleboro has done so much for our family. It's the least I can do to find ways to give back. And that idea, that sense of moral obligation to give back, to help those and to help those communities that have helped us directly and indirectly, I think is a really powerful value for all of us. And I know it's something that's shared in this room. The work that you're doing every single day is giving back to the communities that have given us all so much. But it was my mom and the experience of my mom that really instilled this value and this lesson that I mentioned that I think is the core to recovery. She started a soup kitchen in Brattleboro in 1982 on St. Patrick's Day. And her and her friends that started it, they served 12 meals that day to 12 people. And now they serve over 45,000 meals a year at St. Bridget's Kitchen. And she helped run the kitchen for 40 years. And without fail, when I would go with her to deliver food in Brattleboro to someone that was shut in or an elderly person, or when I was with her at St. Bridget's Kitchen and somebody walked through the door that might have been in recovery, might have been having a mental health challenge, might have had a criminal record, might have had a really bad day, it didn't matter. Because every single person my mom encountered, she treated them with love and with dignity and with kindness and with patience. And it really instilled in me the idea that everybody has value, everybody matters, and everybody deserves dignity. And that's the standard, the high standard, that all of us as politicians, as policymakers, as leaders, should be holding ourselves to. I think it's the high standard that all of us as community members and as community leaders should be holding ourselves to, this idea that everybody matters. And if we're going to have policies that are trying to help those in recovery or seeking recovery, then I think we have to have that at the core of our mission. How do we create policies to make sure we're creating a Vermont, we're creating an economy where everybody matters? I think it starts with housing. We need to make sure we have adequate housing in our state, not just for those that are trying to move here to help our workforce and all of those things that we need, but for those that are struggling with recovery and struggling with housing insecurity and instability. How can you get better if you don't have a home and a roof over your head and a bed to go back to and a place that will be there for you tomorrow and next week and a month from now? Housing is critical. It's why we've prioritized in our office. We've invested now $125 million into housing across the state, supporting 1,700 new units of housing. We need to do more to support sober homes and recovery housing. We need to do more to support all kinds of housing. But it is a great step in the right direction. We also have to be supporting the organizations that are doing the hard work in recovery as well. That's why I was so glad that our new program called Vermont Saves, which is a state-based retirement program to help those that have never had the opportunity to save for retirement, be able to do so for the first time. And it's great for those employees of those organizations and those businesses. In the United States, the average person, they just said, has $995 saved for retirement. And the reason it's so low is because some people have access to retirement and have a pretty good amount saved, but then the number of people that have no access at all basically have nothing saved. Vermont Saves looks to fix that problem. People are now saving. We have 5,500 people that are saving for the first time in Vermont Saves. Collectively, they've saved $5.5 million. And there are a number of recovery organizations that themselves, as an employer, are now in Vermont Saves, providing that benefit to their employees, giving them the respect and the dignity and the opportunity that they deserve. We also last year eliminated up to $100 million in medical debt and protected Vermonters' credit scores from medical debt going forward. I thought this was really critical because people that are trying to get better, people that need to access health care, they shouldn't be weighed down by the extraordinary cost of medical debt. That can certainly impact them financially when their credit score goes down, but it can also impact from a health standpoint. They're less likely to go see their doctor. They feel the shame of owing medical debt. They think their doctor might not see them. They're worried about going into even more medical debt. So by partnering with an organization called Undo Medical Debt, we were able to eliminate up to $100 million with the one-time, relatively small investment of $1 million. And our office is hard at work doing that right now. We hope to have more information about the initial eliminations in the near future. And I just want to close also on an item about workforce. You know, in a moment in our state and in our economy where we have a critical workforce shortage, it's all the more reason that we need to double down on our efforts from those of us and those of you in the recovery community to make sure every Vermonter is as successful as they can be. We have jobs that are going unfilled. We have economic opportunity that's not happening because we do not have enough workers in our workforce. Certainly we have to build more housing. Certainly we have to make Vermont a more affordable place. But we also have to make sure we're investing in all of the Vermonters that are here, that they are achieving their highest potential. And I know Sarah Byers is here from Leonardo's Pizza, and we need employers that step up and know that recovery is a second chance and that they will invest in those employees as well. So thank you for the work that you're doing. So, you know, in closing, I just want to say 267 days ago, my mom, who I talked about, passed away from lung cancer. And, you know, she was obviously somebody that was very dear to me. And the grief that I experienced when she passed, you know, made me have to confront my own complicated relationship with alcohol. The grief that I experienced, I said to myself, I don't want to experience this grief and have alcohol in my life at the same time. But it had been many years where I thought to myself, I should probably give up alcohol. What is it adding to my life? But quite frankly, I didn't have the courage to do it. I thought about all the things I would be giving up. Because it's so ingrained into our society, it's so ingrained into our culture, it's so ingrained into our friendships, our personal lives, our activities. But I knew I had to do it, and I knew my mom wanted me to do it. So I did it. And it was hard. Well, I thank you, I appreciate that. But my point is that so many Vermonters have a much harder road to recovery, a much harder road to their path than anything I experienced. And for me, it was still really hard and challenging. So I can only imagine, really, I don't know what you're going through and what you have to do and sacrifice and finally make that decision that you want to take the path to recovery. But my message is that as long as I'm in public service, as long as I'm here in Montpelier, you'll have somebody walking right beside you, right behind you, encouraging you, supporting you, with open ears, an open mind, and an energy and a desire to make sure we are the leading state in the country on supporting those in recovery. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we have a really special feature now, and I'd like to welcome up Natasha Payton from Lund, and we also have Liz and Sharon from Lund as well who are here. We're just so excited. We're adding a feature that we've never had before, and we're about to show a film, and we're gonna hear some really powerful stories. I really, just very quickly gonna say, I think that this illustrates the tipping point that we're at. I think when I started my career, I felt like there were people in recovery at tables who knew each other and knew that they were in recovery, but there was this sort of self-sabotage, this self-silencing, we were the anonymous people. And there was this fear that, being yourself might cost you something down the road. And to be in a room full of hundreds of people, to watch films about people with lived experience, to see what all of you are achieving, and to see people working at the state who are in recovery and out and about it, it's monumental. And every day it makes it easier for everyone to be who they truly are, and where what was once a liability to become an asset. And so now we're going to tell some stories and show you how the power of lived experience and how there truly is nothing about us without us.
Thank you, Daniel. My name is Natasha Payton, and I'm on the Development and Communications team at Lund. And if you're unfamiliar with Lund, we're a statewide nonprofit that serves children and families through adoption, clinical treatment, and parent-child center services. And really all of our services and programs aim to strengthen families so that children can thrive. And I'm really happy to be here with you today. It's been such a powerful day so far, and I'm excited to be able to share this project with you, Recovering Loudly, Stories of Moms in Recovery. If you can go to the next slide. So this project came to be because a former Lund Residential Treatment Program client came to us after hearing this quote, "Recover loudly so others don't have to die quietly." And she had been sitting with that and wanted a way to tell her story on a larger scale, wanted help building the infrastructure to do that. And so we said, let's figure it out. Let's figure out a way to make this happen. So the partners of this project are really what made the Storytelling Project come together in such a successful way. Lund had the time to project manage a storytelling project like this. The Vermont Department of Health provided grant funding so that we could get materials, so that we could provide stipends to the participants, so that we could provide accommodations, so that we could get participation from folks across the state. And then we were also able to bring on Suzanne Schmidt as our storytelling coach and producer of these videos. She is an expert storytelling coach and has a background in mental health, so having her on this project helped us make this trauma-informed, therapeutic, and just a much more supported project from start to finish for all of our participants. So with all of that being said, please enjoy Recovering Loudly, Stories of Moms in Recovery.
What's really exciting about this project is it really came about because a former client of ours who is still connected to Lund alumni programs wanted to tell her story. She wanted a way to tell it on a larger scale and connected us with the Vermont Department of Health, who had funding but no time for a project. She had a story but needed the infrastructure to be able to tell that story on a larger scale. Ashley helped us recruit additional participants so that we have kind of statewide representation. Not all of the participants have gone through Lund programs, which we also love. We get to see how other recovery and treatment programs are supporting folks across the state.
I've lost a lot of people in my life, especially since I've been in recovery. And a lot of those are women that I lived with at Lund that passed away, that were moms. And a lot of them they died because they were feeling shameful. They didn't want to talk about that they had slipped or they had relapsed. And because of that, they're gone. And that's another reason why I want to use my voice and recover loudly, because if we recover loudly, others won't die quietly. And that's something that's very important to me. I lost a sister to addiction. I've lost a cousin. I have lost so many other sisters in arms. It's a lot. And I want, and there is another way. It's not easy. I won't try to pretend like this has been a great 9 years, because it's not. It's hard.
Also, why I wanted to do this project is because it's important to me now that I've found stable recovery, to be somebody that can kind of reach out and help other people find their way as well.
You're not alone. You can get through this. Things are hard in recovery, yes, but things are harder when you're doing drugs. Things are harder when you're drinking and it's taking over your life. Recovery is not a one straight line. It's like a roller coaster. It's up and down, and there's days that I still want to pick up. I have dreams about doing drugs and getting drunk, and sometimes I'm like, that sounds amazing. But in reality, I want to be where I am today. I want to have my kids. I probably wouldn't even be alive, to be honest. And so I think recovery is not the answer to solving everything, but a bad day in recovery, this is something my sponsor told me, your worst day in recovery is still your best day versus you being an addiction.
One thing that I think was really important is that my parents also got involved with Al-Anon, and they had a counselor as well to kind of help deal with my issues. And that was also a really big thing that helped them learn to kind of take a step back.
The thing that was most helpful for me in my recovery is knowing that there was at least one person who believed in me and who believed that I could achieve better and that people can change. That was my daughter's juvenile court attorney, who she was appointed immediately after her birth when I lost custody to the state of Vermont. And she came to the hospital room and she introduced herself to me and she informed me of what was about to happen. And then she proceeded to sit with me for 3 hours when she didn't have to, so I could hold my baby and have more time with her. She allowed me to take a nap while holding my baby, and when I woke up, she was still sitting there. She talked with me every other day for the entire 6-month length of time that I was in prison to reaffirm me that she was on my side, to give me updates on how my baby was doing. And I was mindfully aware during this time she didn't have to do all of that. And she did, out of the kindness of her heart. And we are still in communication to this day. We send each other emails with updates, and she expresses how proud she is, and I express my gratitude for her being that one person that believed in me just enough so I would believe in myself.
I think like kindness and people like holding space for my recovery was like the most important piece. Like I think my mom specifically, like being able to hold that space for me was really critical. But also having a community of people that really believed that I could find recovery, and that like as I like kind of moved forward was rallying around me and like helping me to find my way was super, super helpful.
Programming like Al-Anon is amazing because they'll help. Just the community part of it, I think, is important. I found that by living at Lund because I thought I was all alone. I'm like, nobody's going through the stuff that I'm going through. There's no way. And then I moved into a building with 26 women going through the stuff that I was going through. So that's how I learned about like the community aspect of it is so important.
First, it was Lund, being at Lund. The staff they were very, very like they were just, they were very aware of like trauma and addiction and how it kind of cycles itself. And so they were really gentle with us. They were very loving. The words that they used were loving and comforting. We used to get like these kudos cards, and they would say certain things on them. You did amazing today. And I would post them on the wall. And so that helped me get through like my first year. Helped me. And I also had like a lot of friends from Connecticut and family and my mom. They were all really, really encouraging. And then eventually I met my sponsor. I had tons of sponsors that were encouraging and amazing, but I found the one that I still have today, and she's just, everything that she says to me is from a place of love. Every time she hangs up, I love you, Jen, you're doing amazing. And I think I needed to hear those things to feel like, okay, I can be loved. And so, yeah.
Being a mom in recovery is hard. You know, life's always a balance, but there's a lot of extra balance with
doing all those things that are like self-care and taking care of yourself in your recovery, which has to come first. And I figured if it could help one person, then it was worth doing it. You know?
The thing that keeps me on track right now is my daughter. For the most part, she keeps like my head on my shoulders, and she reminds me of what's important and why I'm still here. Like, there's reasons that I made it through my addiction and have been able to come out on this side, and she's a huge part of that. I'm pretty convinced that she needed to be born for some reason. The stuff that we went through and the things like, I mean, just my birthing story alone is enough, you know, and there's so much more after that. So there's a reason she's here. I don't know why, because she's only 9, but there's a reason, and she saved me. I mean, she gave me the strength that I needed to realize that I needed the structure and support of more help than I was getting, and that's what I got, and that's how I am where I am now, and she's definitely the driving force. Plus, she's a wild child, and she keeps me on my toes.
Being a parent in recovery is like the most important and fulfilling part of my life. I think that having kids, like, and having my daughter in early recovery gave me the motivation to like move forward and prioritize my recovery. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend somebody do it that way, but I think that people can find motivation, and the like love of their children can be a driving force in putting the work into their recovery. And that's how it was for me. And I love children. And so being able to help parents find their way into recovery so that it will benefit their children and of course themselves is something I'm really passionate about.
When I became a parent, I wasn't in recovery. I was sober, but I wasn't in recovery. And then they gave me, like with my dad, I couldn't stick up for myself. Like I couldn't stop blaming myself for what happened, which kept me in that cycle with my father. But once he told me he would treat her the same way he was treating me, I realized that she doesn't deserve those things. And it made me realize, like, maybe I didn't deserve those things. So they've given me, like, I don't know how to say, like, they're not the reason why I'm sober, but they give me a reason to be sober. Yeah, I couldn't base my recovery on my children, but they're part of my recovery. They give me life. They help me realize that what kind of love a child should get and how important it is for a child to be safe. Children are vulnerable, and whoever's taking care of them, they need to be the person that keeps them safe. And I didn't have that from my father. So I learned that from my kids.
Being able to be honest and talk to my family and my friends about my addiction the way I would about anything else. Not feeling that guilt and shame.
So yeah, I feel like there's like a process to being in recovery. There's a lot of work to it, and it doesn't feel good. Don't nobody want to like look at all the bad stuff they did. Nobody wants to do that and be like, okay, I did that. Yes, I did that. How can I make it better?
I've told my story many times, and the pity eyes that you can get from people are really kind of hard to handle, because that's not why I'm doing this. I don't need pity or sympathy. I'm trying to hopefully help people.
My kids are the thing I'm the most grateful for. I have 3 kids. My daughter is 7, and my middle son is 5, and our youngest is 2. And they're just each so unique and fun and funny and really brighten up our lives like all the time. Like I don't think I've had a bad day since I've had them. Like, I mean, there are hard moments in each day, but there's like always, I don't think I've ever not laughed like any of the days since they've been born. Like they bring so much joy, and I just really love being their mom.
I'm grateful for so many things, but I think in general, the most grateful I am is just knowing that I'm doing good every day, going to bed at night knowing that I'm going to remember it in the morning and that I'm proud of what I'm doing.
I have so much to be grateful for. I feel very fortunate. Probably my wife is probably actually what I'm most grateful for. Although, I mean, maybe my sobriety, because without that, I definitely wouldn't have my wife. She's way out of my league. She doesn't know it, but she is. Maybe she knows it. But yeah, probably my sobriety. If it was, I need that before I get any of the other gifts.
My hope for myself is to find contentedness that I never have had. I've always lived in a chaotic lifestyle, and for me, I really don't think when it comes to me, I have a hard time thinking of the now. I think about the future, and when I'm in my 60s and I am sitting at a lakeside just relaxing and having found peace. And that's all I want for myself, is just to find contentedness and peace. And I'm getting there. It's taking forever. I mean, instant gratification is real.
I am most grateful for the second chance that I was given, for my children, and to be having this life.
Just keep going. Just keep going on that train. And if you need help that day, call 1,000 people, call 100 people. Don't feel like you're bothering people. Call the right people, though. Don't, call healthy connections and keep your circle. Stick with the winners. So if you see someone that's doing great in that meeting or a recovery meeting, or someone in society that you look up to that's doing what you want to do, then kind of stick with those kind of people.
I think so often in the line of work that I do, I see people from so many different backgrounds with the same problem. And I feel like it's so important to know that you don't have to wait until things get to be as bad as you think they have to be.
Just show up. One day, sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 1 minute at a time, but to show up for it. It gets better. Probably. Yeah. Keep on keeping on. Yeah.
It is about recovery, personal growth, overcoming hardships, realizing there is a grander plan for our lives and hardships are a part of it, and understanding the power that our thoughts and emotion have over our own lives.
I want folks to know that there is still hope if somebody is continuing to have relapses, and also if it isn't somebody's experience that they get sober the first time doesn't mean that they can't eventually find their way into lasting and stable recovery.
People being okay with telling their story, because everybody does stuff. Everybody makes mistakes, and everybody makes bad choices. And I feel like what it is at the end of the day is how you move forward from those mistakes and bad choices. Because, choices are made in a moment, and those moments are fleeting. And if you can just, learn from them and move forward and grow and try to not feel as bad about it, then that would be, if my story helps with that, then that's all I want.
I heard the bird was by your door, lurking for your return from the freezing shore. When that bird goes flying to war, what it puts you through, you need so much more than an easy tune, saying trouble come no more.
So it's always hard to follow that powerful film, and I'm always happy when I get to do that by giving you a chance to hear directly from some of the participants. But before I call them up, I do just want to share that all of the participants, in addition to this longer film, filmed their own story, and they range from 4 to 8 minutes. They're all available to watch on our website, lundvt.org/recoveringloudly. So if you want to check them out there, there's also additional resources, discussion guides that go along with the project that you can find out how to access on the website as well. So now, if you could join me in welcoming a few of the participants up today, Amy, Jen, and Rosemary. And so I just thank you all for being here, for sharing your stories. I just have a few questions for you all, and you can kind of popcorn around. You don't have to answer every question. But in the video, you shared a bit about why you wanted to participate in this project. And now that it's here and the films are, the stories and film is out there, what are you hoping will come from this project?
I'm hoping that it will bring people to like Lund or Turning Point or any other, so people don't know they're not alone. Like I didn't know about Lund, and I've been in Vermont probably, my daughter was 7 by the time I went to Lund. So it's just, there's not, you don't have to leave your kids all the time. And it's longer than like a rehab. I've been to so many rehabs. I've realized so many times. So there's more programs that fit for you, like for anyone. So, and I think too, like us hearing other people's stories, it helped me. Like Ashley was saying, it helped me not to feel alone because I felt like I was ashamed, and I felt like I was the only one.
I have to say this actually was my first time seeing the film, and my wife's here, so now she knows that she's out of my league. So I didn't know that was in there, sorry. But I just hope it like plants seeds of hope, and if it helps one person, then it was worth my wife now knowing she's out of my league.
And I think that my addiction brought me into the depths of despair and into jails and into all sorts of different institutions. And I was missing at one point, and my mom was the desperate one, wondering if I was still alive or what was going to happen to me. And so no matter how much I do for the recovery field, I don't think I can ever give back the gift that has been given to me in recovery. And this project combined two of my most favorite things, which are parenting and recovery. And so when I heard that it was happening, I was eager to participate. And I'm 9.5 years sober, so as I get further... Thank you. And as I get further away from my active addiction, it doesn't feel as green, and I think it's important for me to remember and be willing to share. And if my story can help anyone to feel hope, and anyone should feel hope, because if you can overcome the things that I did in my recovery story and then build a meaningful life, then there really is hope for anyone.
Thank you so much. I think something that all 6 of the participants touched on is they wanted to participate in this project if it would help one person. And so you're going to help so many people with this project, so we appreciate you sharing. What do you want the community to understand about moms in recovery, and how can community providers better support you?
I had to bring my kids with me, so they sitting right over there, and the whole time the video, my son was like, ew, you look so ugly, what are you doing, why are you saying that stuff? I mean, it's hard to be in recovery with your kids, and so like I said in the video, I had spouts of sobriety as I had children, but I also had relapses in those instances, and so like dragging my kids to AA, or don't feel ashamed to do, I think I felt like, oh my God, they're talking, they're playing, my son's playing with his water bottle the whole time the video was going, and I just have to ignore it, but it feels bad bringing your kids. You might get dirty looks and stuff like that, or even asked to leave a meeting, but just go to another one. And it's good for the kids because, they could have this issue, and I hope not, but if they do, they could see other ways to kind of, but I think, yeah, if you're a parent, a dad or a mom, a grandparent, you have kids and you're
in recovery, it's okay to still be at those meetings and still bring them to stuff like this, even though they might think you look ugly in the video. But, you know, yeah, I think it's you know, because I've heard a lot of people tell me I can't bring my kids to AA meetings, especially providers that aren't in recovery. They'll look down on it, or they'll try to force me to find a sitter. I can't go find a sitter if I know I'm about to, if I want to drink and pick up drugs, my neighbor's getting high, I don't have time to find a sitter. I have to get to a meeting. So it's just, I think that's the only thing. Like, I've had DCF tell me I'm not allowed to bring my kids to meeting. I don't, you know, I have a sponsor, so I'm lucky in that manner, but sometimes it can be stressful with the comments that people make, you know.
Yeah, I would agree, that understanding of like having, even when I signed up for this, which I thought I was going to be able to hide in the back because I thought everyone was coming and I thought I wouldn't have to get to speak. But I think that understanding, I'll echo that understanding of like, when I signed up for this, I said, I might have to bring my 14-month-old, is that okay? And then also like community members stepping up to like watch kids, you know, like I have so many friends in different pockets of the community that have just like babysat at night so I could go out to a meeting, or, you know, even while the kids are sleeping, you know what I mean? So just showing up, you know, even silently like that.
And finally, any advice that you have for others in recovery who are thinking about sharing their story, what would you say to them?
Be brave.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah, just get through it. We had Susan, where'd she go? She's here somewhere. But she, like they were saying, they had hired Susan to help us, and she was such, I think I almost quit like several times. Because we've spoken at meetings and stuff like that, but it was like being recorded. There was like lights, and it was hot, and it was hard. I couldn't even read my own story. I had to put it down. They made me put it down and like walk around the room. It was just, it is hard, even if you've done it a bunch of times. But I think, yeah, every time I watch that, I want to cry when I hear you guys tell your story, and I think this is like something that you guys did. All the people that put this together was amazing. I hope we see more, and I hope tons of. I mean, everyone has a story to tell, so you know, I think it will help. But any type of recovery, even trauma, even if it's not addiction. So that's it.
Thank you all so much for sharing your stories with us today. Yeah, thank you.
Who here is feeling more inspired and hopeful than when you walked in here? Next up, I'd like to bring up Rosemary Rosa, the ED of Turning Point Center of Central Vermont. You just saw her incredible inspiration, and Ariel Balak, the ED of the Kingdom Recovery Center, to present the Dr. Mark Detman Trailblazer Award. And just want to, while you guys come up, just want to give just another special shout out to our partners at the Central Vermont Prevention Coalition. This really came about in partnership with CVMC and the Central Vermont Prevention Coalition. And the citation will speak a little bit to who Mark Detman was to us. This is a special award recognizing a special person, and we're really glad to be able to give it to somebody who is connected to the beautiful project that you just saw. So without further ado, Ariel and Rosemary.
So my name is Ariel Bolak, and I'm a person in long-term recovery, and like he shared, I'm the executive director of the Kingdom Recovery Center in St. Johnsbury.
And my name is Rosemary Rosa. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I'm the executive director at the Turning Point Center of Central Vermont. The Mark Detman Award was created to honor the life and work of Dr. Mark Detman, emergency department physician at Central Vermont Medical Center and driving force in the development of the Central Vermont Prevention Coalition, a leading Vermont collaboration addressing substance use issues. This award honors healthcare professionals for achievement in reducing stigmatizing attitudes held by healthcare professionals and developing programs fostering collaborations between clinicians and peer recovery coaches.
And so we are honored to present this award to Katie Leffel. Katie is a nurse and lactation consultant in the Family and Child Health Division of VDH. She focuses on perinatal quality improvement, maternal mortality, and perinatal substance use topics. In her role with the Maternal Mortality Review Panel, she has helped develop and drive interventions to prevent Vermont's leading cause of maternal death, accidental overdose. She also acts as a liaison to the Perinatal Quality Collaborative of Vermont, often called the PQC, and supports the Division of Family and Child Health Nursing workforce in VDH local health offices. She has supported community partners to incorporate maternal health specific projects in their substance use prevention work with the Central Vermont Turning Point Center, and as you just saw, the Lund Recovering Loudly project, and also the Bliss project with PQC.
Additionally, she has partnered with the PQC Vermont and the Alliance for Innovation in Maternal Health team to plan and implement the Care for Pregnant and Postpartum Patients with Substance Use Disorder Patient Safety Bundle. As part of the bundle, she is collaborating with clinical and community partners to improve care and address perinatal stigma and bias. She has also partnered to create secure electronic platform for the Family Care Plan to help guide coordination for birthing people and develop improved guidance for clinical community teams on approaches to supporting families with SUD involvement. She also partners closely with the Family Services Division to adopt supportive child welfare approaches for birthing people. She continues to her work over 13 years in the community as well, providing lactation support and nurse home visiting with Central Vermont Health and Hospice on a per diem basis.
So I've been very honored to get to know Katie over the last few years with my work with the PQC and the Maternal Mortality Panel. And she just really values lived experience, and she's able to bring our voices to the right spaces to be heard, and she believes in using lived experiences and our stories to help create system and policy change. And it's just been really awesome to get to know her and just have her support and uplift me and give me hope and be able to share my experience in multiple spaces that are making an impact. And so when I heard what this award meant, I was like, I know the person.
Yes, and I've had the opportunity to work closely with Katie over the last couple of years as I worked on building our Overdose to Action funded Parents in Recovery program. Katie is a visionary and thinks outside the box. She thinks about systems, and she also values people and lifts up those with lived experience. I cannot think of a more appropriate person to receive this award, and so with that, we would love to bring Katie up to receive this award.
This is amazing, and also really feeling the imposter syndrome right now. But anyway, thank you very much. And I wanted to, well, first of all, I don't stand up here alone. As they mentioned, there's a lot of partners who have supported this work and done amazing things. And but I do want to share a little bit about the Maternal Mortality Review Panel, which reviews deaths through people who are pregnant or in that first year after the pregnancy ends. Our leading cause of death in Vermont is accidental overdose. And by far and away. And we review cases every year. And 1 year recently, we reviewed 6 cases. And 2 of them were identified as high risk with substance use disorder. 2 of them looked stable in recovery. And 2 of them had no record of a substance use issue in their lives, in their clinical record. And yet they all died in the year after the birth of their child from an accidental overdose, which really drives home the point that we cannot be picking and choosing who we screen and who we offer services to, because you don't know who's sitting across the desk from you. And the other piece that I always think about is our anonymous survey results from PRAM. We send those out to women in the year after birth, and Vermont is the leader in many ways, and one of those is alcohol use in pregnancy. And we have high rates of alcohol use in pregnancy among across the nation as well. And one of the things that we learned from that data which is self-report anonymous data, that it's women who identify as, or who are reporting that they are college educated, they're older moms over 30, and also with private insurance. And what that also tells me is, again, you cannot pick and choose who you think has a substance use issue. And so we really need to support our clinical partners as well as our community partners to universally offer supports, universally screen. And I really see the way forward for that is what we've learned from perinatal mental health. We've done an extraordinary job in Vermont and in this nation around perinatal mental health. We've decreased the stigma. People are screened. People report and disclose their struggle, and we offer them supports. And I don't see why we can't do the same thing with perinatal substance use and really use that as our roadmap to how we can better address perinatal substance use. And the other thing that I have learned from these amazing women is to tell their story, because I'm also in recovery. And I know the shame, and I know the stigma. And I mean, even a few months ago, I wouldn't have shared that with this room. I wouldn't have shared it with anyone besides my husband. So I have seen the way that they stood up and they told their stories and the impact that it has. And so I'm just really impressed with a lot of the women that I work with. So thank you very much.
Just want to say a really quick word of gratitude. Of course, there are many funders in the room. DSU is the conduit through which so much federal and state funding goes into the recovery community. There are private philanthropists. We all give in our own ways. I think back to the COVID period and also the floods and so many other moments of both crisis and tremendous work, as well as just our decades in the recovery field. And one constant has been the Vermont Community Foundation, and they're represented today by Andy Barker, who has been beyond valuable as a thought partner, as a person who just believes in us and invests in us. And in the Vermont Community Foundation, I honestly think there are organizations in the recovery community who probably wouldn't have survived COVID even, operationally, had it not been for the Vermont Community Foundation. And they're big investors in the arts, in films, in community gatherings, and so many other things. So I just want to thank the Vermont Community Foundation. Next up, we're going to present the Tammy Bushell Recovery Friendly Workplace Award. And I'm going to shamelessly just take this moment to thank my colleague Lisa Lord, who is the director of the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative and our director of operations. So she wears many, many hats. And I encourage you, please, to visit our table and learn more about the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative. We launched in September. We've been doing this work for years, but we launched the actual certification program in September, and we have 22 employers in the first cohort representing thousands and thousands of employees. And just in general, I would say Lisa is one of the most incredible partners and competent, hardworking people. So to present the Tammy Bushell Recovery Friendly Workplace Award, our Director of Operations, Lisa Lord.
Thanks, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Happy Recovery Day. So the Tammy Bushell Recovery Friendly Workplaces Award was created to honor the trailblazing work of Tammy Bushell, who has done and continues to do so much work around reducing addiction-related stigma, transforming her workplace into one that supports employees in and seeking recovery, and advocating for Vermont employers to become recovery-friendly workplaces. It's not only good for your employees and your workplace, it is important and necessary and wonderful for communities and needed across this state. This award honors a business or organization that demonstrates a strong commitment to supporting employees in recovery and fostering a workplace culture of inclusivity, understanding, and wellness. This award recognizes innovative practices, policies, and leadership that reduce stigma, encourage recovery, and create a supportive environment where individuals can thrive both personally and professionally. This award is named for Tammy Bushell because it honors something deeper than policies or checklists. It honors courage, humanity, and the willingness to lead in a way that recognizes the whole person, their potential, their joys, and their sorrows, and also what becomes possible for growth when dignity and respect truly are present. The recipient of this year's Tammy Bushell Recovery Friendly Workplaces Award embodies that spirit fully. As a business leader, Sarah has long understood and demonstrated that work is about more than productivity. It's about livelihood and sense of purpose, and above all, it's about connection. From serving on the Governor's Opioid Coordination Council, and as she describes it, a distinct honor of co-chairing the Recovery Strategies Committee, to leading a family-owned business truly rooted in care, she has consistently used her voice to reduce stigma and to open doors. At Leonardo's, Recovery Friendly doesn't live in a binder. It lives in flexible schedules that honor recovery meetings and in hiring practices that see people before resumes. It lives in a culture grounded in dignity. Leonardo's mission, sharing love through pizza, is more than a slogan. It is how they show up for their team every single day. Research tells us the recovery-friendly workplaces strengthen morale, retention, and well-being. And Sarah reminds us of something that is even more important. This kind of work isn't complicated. It's human. It's my honor to present the Tammy Bushell Recovery Friendly Workplaces Award to Sarah Byers and Leonardo's Pizza.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for those beautiful words, and thank you to VAMHAR and Recovery Partners of Vermont. I'm truly overwhelmed to receive recognition and honor of a true pioneering trailblazer like Tammy. And as I stand up here, it is clear to me that I am simply a reflection of all of the people and experiences that I have benefited from. And as Lisa mentioned, one of those was my serving on the Governor's Opioid Coordination Council. And there are many members from that Recovery Strategies Committee that are in here today. And you all can attest that those meetings were often standing room only, just like this one, with individuals in recovery who are sharing their stories, their experiences, their pathways to feeling successful in life. And it was the most powerful experience for me. And all of those people helped to create some of the systems, policies, and services that I'm hearing about today. And not only did you do that on a statewide level, but you all changed my life. I am a stronger business person, a stronger leader, a stronger community member because of you. And you also gave me one of the most tremendous gifts. You gave something to my family. You brought my family back together, and I will always be grateful. I am also a reflection of the amazing team that works at Leonardo's Pizza. My father, who founded our business in 1990 with a social mission before that term had even been coined. My husband, who oversaw the business with me for 20 years. And all of the people who came in and out of our doors, who make the business what it is. the people who showed inclusivity and belonging, who understood what it meant to share love through pizza with each other, with our customers, and with everyone in our communities. And it is all of them who truly do the work each and every day and inspire me. And I also want to recognize each and every one of you, because this is a reflection of you as well. Because when I look around this room, I see love, compassion, understanding, togetherness. And when I look at the world, that's what I think the world needs. I often talk about the fact that the more whole we become within ourselves, the more whole our world becomes. And this room is a shining example of what is possible. I also want to recognize probably one of the greatest reflections, and that is someone that you haven't seen, but who has been standing by my side, holding my hand for the last 50 years, and that is my sister, Abby. It is her courage, her bravery and vulnerability, her belief in the power of sharing her story through me that gave me the blessing to do just that, to share her story of her substance use journey and our family story publicly for the last 10 years. She is my greatest inspiration, my greatest cheerleader, my greatest supporter, and I dedicate and share this award with her today. And as I stand here, I think of the words from my favorite musician that I want to offer all of you, because I feel it. And that is, I love you. Each and every one of you, even if I don't know you, I love you. Thank you so much.
So next we have Writers for Recovery. We're entering the home stretch, and I hope you'll bear with us here, and we'll run a few minutes over. But next we have some readings from Writers for Recovery, and then a short break. Please don't forget to do the activities. On the other side of that blue pillar there, the fake stairs, there is a tree there, symbolic tree. There's the activities on the side. Please take advantage of those if you get a chance. Thanks.
So we're just going to bring up 3 people to read briefly. The first person is Angela Devoid, and she's from my workshop in St. Johnsbury. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Angela, and I am a long person in recovery, and February 16th, hopefully I'll be sober 23 years. This writing is called My Name is Tired. My name is Tired, nice to meet you. Look at my eyes, trying not to let my tears fall on my makeup. It didn't feel natural to show the emotions I left in my teacup. It's hard to hold on to wishing when all I got was letting me down. The frown lines began to show when I saw my past flash before my eyes. I throw my eyes to the ceiling, hoping time will stand still just for a moment. It happens sometimes when I let my breath slip beneath my feet. Short and painful, I don't want it if it's always gonna leave. You let me down in a way I don't think forgiveness is in the name. No more failed attempts to release all the trauma in my name. I'm the youngest I'll ever be and the oldest I've ever known. Covered my head in satin sheets while lying in shame, guilt, and remorse took hold. My name was tired, but just for a short time.
Now we have Denise Walton.
First, I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. I am in recovery, long-term recovery, woman, and it'll be almost 10 years of me abstaining from all opiates. So, and it's really with programs like Writers in Recovery, people like you, all of us, for being here. So this is kind of the prompt was, this truth I know. So many roads on this journey so deep, some long and windy, or canyons so steep. In this little car so far from home, the trip so joyous, new places to roam. At the end of the day, maps folded up, a new place to sleep, teeth in a cup. Eyes closed, thoughts slow. Tomorrow's journey no one knows. One day at a time, I'll do just fine.
Hi there. Hi there. I do want to read and talk a little bit about our work in the correctional system. But before I do, I just want to quickly say that following Sarah and Leonardo's Pizza closed a little loop for me on a personal level, because many years ago, as a freelance writer, I was hired to write the label on the sauce jar for Leonardo's Pizza. And I want to say that now that I know all the recovery work you guys have done, I feel even better than when I got the check. So thank you. Writers for Recovery has had DOC as a partner since our very beginning. They generously provide funding, and they just in fact renewed our funding for another year, so thank you, DOC. I feel really personal about our work in DOC for two reasons, but for many reasons, but for two I want to talk about. One is that the people in there are people that don't get heard, and they need their stories to be heard. And that's super, super important for those people. And the other one is that we on the outside need to hear those stories because they're informative, they're important, they contain incredible amounts of wisdom, and they let us know about a world that impacts us all, but that many of us don't know about. And I really appreciate my groups. I love everyone, and Bess and all of us who work with people in corrections. It's such a great thing, and we love everyone who works with us inside the walls of DOC. I just want to read one short poem. One of the big things that people feel in recovery and especially in corrections, and especially after they get out, is stigma, and I want to read a piece about that. It's untitled. Cut me if you want. I've been cut before, intentional or not, by my own hand or yours. This is not unfamiliar territory. Stone me if you must. A rock against my thick skull may actually do some good, knock some sense into me. Harm me if you will. If it is important that you see me wounded, then here I stand to serve as your target. Break me if you can. Better have tried, and despite every scar, bruise, and wound, I am still here. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a few-minute break. Let's try to be back by 12:25. Please eat some food and drink some water. Let's pull it in for the last part of this program if we can. I would love to. We have two really special people to recognize, and I know we're toward the end of the day. We're gonna power through here. All right. So next up to present our first Lifetime Achievement Award, please welcome Grace Keller.
Hello. Thank you. Hi, I'm Grace Keller. I'm here to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to Kimberly Blake. This award honors an individual whose unwavering dedication, vision, and advocacy have profoundly advanced the landscape of addiction recovery in Vermont. This award recognizes an exceptional commitment to reducing stigma and building systems of care and support that empower individuals and communities. The recipients' enduring contributions exemplify the power of compassion and perseverance in building stronger communities and transforming lives. When I first started working in harm reduction, one of my heroes said a simple phrase: demonstrate radical generosity. That line stayed with me, and today it resonates because if anyone embodies radical generosity, it's Kimberly Blake. Kim's work in harm reduction is broad, deep, and profoundly sincere. She serves individuals in treatment, babies still in utero, parents and loved ones. She shapes entire communities through rallies and awareness events and advocates for state and national policy. At every level, the through line is the same: compassion, courage, and a commitment to patience and unconditional positive regard. Before Kim, there wasn't low-barrier buprenorphine treatment program in Vermont, and in the country, there were only a handful embedded in a syringe service program. At Safe Recovery, we saw people every day for whom traditional treatment simply did not work. People who had tried and been kicked out, banned, or had never tried at all because the barriers were too high. So we made the decision to offer buprenorphine treatment in-house in a syringe exchange on demand. At the time, that felt radical. In harm reduction, we're used to having to start from no and painstakingly work to yes. When others warned it was dangerous and said it would fail, we needed a provider willing to take the risk, someone non-judgmental, someone patients could trust. We needed a unicorn. And then Kim walked through the door, and she started with yes. I knew her reputation as an OBGYN. I also knew that mere months ago, she had just lost her beautiful son, Sean, to an overdose. Demonstrate radical generosity. Kim stepped forward at a time when no one would have blamed her for stepping back. She said yes, because she understands if we're going to save lives, we have to innovate. She also understands that retention lives in relationships, that change is personal, and empowerment means hearing people and recognizing those changes. She truly meets people where they are, and she stays. Kim has been a pioneer, among the first to treat people with buprenorphine in a syringe service program and pregnant women in an office setting, a fierce advocate for fathers, and a champion for keeping families together, because she knows the best prevention for children is keeping their parents alive and healthy. She organizes Overdose Awareness Day and other events. She testifies about what she believes in, like overdose prevention centers, treatment access, and criminal justice reform. As Vermont's ambassador for team sharing, she's often the first call when a family loses a child, and again, she stays, holding support groups, rallies, and being a friend. Oh, and when she's not doing all of that, she's delivered over 2,000 babies. Kim's life work is radical generosity in action, generosity of time, expertise, compassion, and courage, generosity in breaking down barriers, generosity in starting with yes, again and again. There is no one more deserving of this Lifetime Achievement Award. Please join me in honoring my friend and a true force for change, Kimberly Blake.
Thank you so much. I wrote some things down because I know that I might get teary. Thank you very much, Vamhar. Thank you very much, Matina and Daniel. I appreciate you guys always being there on Overdose Awareness Day, which we are planning again for August 31st, so I hope to see you there. It means the world to our parents to have people come to that event. But I really want to dedicate this award to the harm reduction family and community that so generously welcomed me, OBGYN with not a whole lot of knowledge about addiction medicine, and helped me learn how to be a better doctor. Grace, Jess, Monica, Tom, Dalton, and now Sarah, and especially my patients, and I am really, really psyched to see one of them here today. I love the 12-step programs. Al-Anon was life-saving for me, but I know that there are many, many paths to recovery. And I often tell people of the idea of public health crisis that we are facing, somewhat like some type of emergency. I like sailing, so I think of like a shipwreck. And, you know, when there's a disaster, we don't think anything about saving lives, and that's the only thing we think about. So we hand out the life preservers, and we don't ask people to ask us or tell us how much they want the life preserver, or tell them not to share the life preserver with somebody who's right next to them. I think we do whatever we can to keep people alive, and that is my hope, that we make progress, that we open the Overdose Prevention Center, which I'm very excited about, and I feel like that's our next step to saving more lives, that we can do anything we can to keep people alive. I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity to work at Safe Recovery at the time that we did. It was before the pandemic, and we saw an almost immediate retention and treatment in a setting where we were really good at getting people into treatment, but not really good at keeping them in treatment. And it was an opportunity that allowed me to like work through my grief. And that is something that I'm just forever grateful to the patients for allowing me to, you know, come into their lives, not always knowing exactly what to do, but they really taught me a lot, and I am incredibly grateful to them. I also just want to say that my husband and my son Ned were just incredible cheerleaders, and they allowed me to, you know, when I was going to take kind of a sabbatical from my OBGYN job, let me almost immediately go back to work in a new setting, and we're just incredible support. So I also just am so grateful that they're healthy and in our lives, and anyhow. I'd like to say more about Sean, but I'm afraid I would totally lose it, but I know he's smiling.
Thank you, Kim. To present our next award, the second Lifetime Achievement Award, I'd like to welcome Chad Vijay.
Hello, my name is Chad Vijay. I'm the CEO of Recovery House, Inc., or better known by its programs Serenity House, Grace House, and McGee House. I'm here today to present a Lifetime Achievement Award. Society often measures the work of substance use recovery and saved lives. When we measure lives, we often leave out the details of a life lived and reduce it to numbers. While saving lives is a critical element to the work we all do, we often don't recognize the impact our work has on not only the individual, but families, friends, communities, and society at large. I was inspired to enter this field by one simple vision: enact societal change. This Lifetime Achievement Award is to honor an individual whose unwavering dedication, vision, and advocacy have profoundly advanced the landscape of addiction recovery in Vermont. This award recognizes an exceptional commitment to reducing stigma and building systems of care and support that empower individuals and community. The recipients' enduring contributions exemplify the power of compassion and perseverance in building stronger communities and transforming lives. In short, this person has worked throughout their career to enact societal change. Dr. Nels Kloster is a psychiatrist who has specialized in substance use treatment throughout Vermont in many levels of care. Of note, Dr. Kloster played a pivotal role in developing the state's guidelines for opioid use disorder through his work with the Department of Health Division of Substance Use Programs. Vermont has been the leader in treating opioid use disorder, and Dr. Kloster has been at the forefront. When communities have been in need, Dr. Kloster has responded, bringing opioid use disorder treatment to Bennington, providing treatment in Rutland when providers were initially hesitant to treat opioid use disorder, serving as an expert to providers and communities around the state. These experiences solidified our foundation in Vermont, allowing others to continue to build. Currently, Dr. Kloster is serving as the medical director for Recovery House Inc., the Opioid Treatment Hub in Brattleboro, and the Vermont Practitioner Health Program. In his spare time, if any, he can be found enjoying the outdoors and the company of family. Dr. Kloster has been unwavering in his dedication, vision, and advocacy for the addiction recovery in Vermont. Now, I've known Nels for the better part of 2 decades. In my time working alongside his brilliance, I have understood him to be a man of excellent character. He works with empathy and compassion. He thinks critically and applies common sense appropriately. He builds pathways for communication and, as made popular by Cool Hand Luke, identifies when there's a failure to communicate. Most importantly, Nels is guided by the principle that addiction is a complicated illness that not only impacts individuals, but our entire community. He has spent his life dedicated to providing long-term care and working with agencies that offer a variety of supports that are necessary for recovery. Through all the complexities and hard work, Nels maintains a sense of humor that rivals the best. I appreciate all that you have done for this profession and pushing for societal change. I am honored to introduce you, Dr. Nels Kloster, as a Lifetime Achievement Award winner.
My name is Tracy Thomason, and I'm the Director of Operations for Safita Health. We do have 7 locations, one's in Bennington, and on Dr. Kloster's spare time, he also works for us. I know, and in his spare time, he agrees 100% every time I ask him to be the mentor, the supervisor for another new provider. When I sent this email out to let everybody know in Savita, he said, I was hoping I was going to stay under the radar, Tracy. Just like we don't want our patients under the radar, we don't want you either. And I'm just so honored to have you be part of our team. Well deserved, Dr. Kloster.
I think I've lined up 2 speakers for my funeral if you're... So I had really sort of 2 pivotal moments in my career. The first was an eye-opener during my training when I got to sort of watch one of the buprenorphine trials at UVM when they were bringing that into treatment. I got to sit with one of the patients, and getting to talk to him on an informal basis, I realized, I learned that addiction, drug use wasn't just a bunch of amoral hedonists having a good time. I started to learn about the physical aspects of it, and that made so much sense to me that that's what drove me towards that career, because it made more sense to me than anything else in medicine did. And of course, over the course of my career, I've learned that it's more than a physical issue. There's so many other societal factors that contribute to people who develop problems with drug use, and so that's also been front and center in our work as well. The next pivotal moment came in 2012 when I found myself suddenly unemployed. I reached out to people I knew. I've been forced to work throughout the state, and that's when I wound up sort of working with the hodgepodge that I have right now. Working with Serenity House, with I think Chad went over the whole list. And that might seem to be quite a disparate group of gigs, but when you're suddenly unemployed, you say yes to everything, and it's just worked out that I've not wanted to drop any one of those gigs, and I'm very grateful for those opportunities. While I'll accept some credit here because you're making me do that, it's really what I've seen my job being is that as the approaches to addiction have evolved, that I've worked with the organizations I'm engaged with to see their work evolve as well to meet those new standards and approaches. I think we're also very fortunate. I feel fortunate to be at work also at a certain place and time. The time being now, we're starting to see more attention to substance use disorders. We're hopefully seeing a decrease in the stigma involved, and not to mention the resources applied as well. And Vermont, we have to give credit to Vermont for all the work that's been done here. As has been said many times today already, Vermont is really leading the nation in the right way to treat people who struggle with substance use. And I'm just a small piece of that whole pie there. But I am often asked, how do you work with those people? And I often tell them I couldn't imagine working with anybody else. So again, I just want to thank you very much.
I should check my time, but I'm pretty sure it's afternoon. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Martina Anderson, and I get to work at VAMHAR, the Vermont Association for Mental Health and Addiction Recovery. And I am beyond excited to introduce our next speaker. And I'm also really grateful to be able to call her a new friend, Kimber King. At Recovery Day, as you might have noticed, we gather to center people, not as case studies, not as headlines, but as whole human beings. Kimber embodies what it means to bring lived experience into this space with honesty, integrity, and care. I never know how close to be to this thing. Kimber is a mother, an advocate, and a Vermonter whose voice has helped deepen important conversations about trust, dignity, and how systems respond when people are navigating vulnerability. Her work challenges us to look closely at the moments when fear, uncertainty, and care intersect. And they ask us to whether our systems make it easier or harder for people to reach out for support. Kimber has chosen to speak publicly about her lived experience, not because it is easy, not because it is comfortable, but because it matters deeply. Because stories like hers challenge stigma. Because stories like hers ask us, as service providers, policymakers, advocates, and neighbors, to look honestly at how our systems show up for people when they are most vulnerable. She speaks with clarity and courage about the real stakes people face when deciding whether it is safe to ask for help, reminding us that confidentiality, compassion, and humanity are not abstract values. They are essential conditions for safety, connection, and healing. Her perspective has resonated far beyond Vermont, but what makes Kimber's presence here so meaningful is not only where her story has been shared, like NPR, it is how she shares it, with thoughtfulness, with purpose, and with deep respect for others who may be navigating similar questions. Today, Kimber joins us not as a symbol, but as a person, one whose lived experience offers wisdom we cannot afford to ignore. And may we all always remember, fear should never silence people who need support. Together, we can build systems rooted in trust, in humanity, and in care. Welcome, Kimber.
Hi, everybody. All right, is everybody ready to get deep here? How many times have you ever come close to dying in your life? Most people don't really know how to answer that. Maybe once, a health scare or a car accident, something sudden, something out of your control. For me, it happened many times, and I was very much in control. I was choosing my fate over and over again, until one day, a paramedic saved my life. But not in the way that you're probably imagining. Yes, he gave me Narcan, he brought me back from an overdose, but honestly, anyone there could have done that. What saved my life wasn't just a medical intervention. It was 3 human moments, rooted in harm reduction, that changed the entire course of the rest of my life. You never know when a single moment is going to define the rest of your life, especially when it should have been your last. My last moments were altered because of a paramedic named Stephen who believed deeply in harm reduction. Stephen believed that saving somebody's life, even if they never stopped using drugs, still mattered. That giving someone another day on this earth was just as valuable as getting someone into rehab. Because another day means another chance, another choice, another opportunity to live. And that's still helping, because it's better than a body bag. Stephen worked to place cards inside harm reduction needle kits in his town, cards that talked about the dangers of using alone, with a hotline number underneath. That town was also my home at the time, and I got one of those kits on the day I decided to use again. I happened to pick one up after being abstinent for 40 days. I had just gotten kicked out of a rehab. When I got home, I was alone, ashamed that I had slipped, ashamed that I didn't tell anyone where I was or what I was doing. And I knew if something went wrong, I would still be all alone. So when I saw that card, I thought, it couldn't hurt. I dialed the number, and that single action saved my life. A woman named Jessie answered the phone, one of many people who sit on the other end of that line just to make sure users aren't alone. She didn't make me feel awkward. She didn't make me feel judged. She made me feel safe. So I got high, and Jessie stayed with me, checking in, gently asking if I was okay. For a while, I kept responding, I'm all good, until I wasn't. I went silent. I became unresponsive. That's when Jessie called 911. So this isn't an exaggeration when I say I would not be here today without that card, without that call, and without Stephen. Not only did he help put that card into the kit I picked up that day, the day I almost took my last breath, he was also the paramedic that was dispatched to the call. He came storming into my apartment, ready to save my life. I think about that moment often, the odds of it all, the alignment, the sheer humanity behind it. Every piece had to exist. Every person had to show up. And as unbelievable as it all sounds, Jessie and Stephen actually knew each other, despite living hundreds of miles apart. The card, the call, the response, that's harm reduction. And that day, I wasn't ready to be abstinent, but I also wasn't ready to die. I wasn't ready to stop, but I was ready for another chance. That's the space harm reduction lives in, and that's why harm reduction belongs in every conversation, in every program, in every community, because addiction doesn't live in silos, and neither should our response to it. Harm reduction belongs wherever people are struggling, wherever people are still using drugs, and wherever people are still trying to survive another day. It should not be shamed, it should not be dismissed, and it should never be treated as the opposite of recovery. Harm reduction is not the absence of hope. It is hope, kept alive long enough to matter. It's what keeps people breathing until they're ready to change. It's what keeps doors open instead of slamming them shut. And it's what says, you are still worthy of care, even if you're not ready to quit yet. Recovery doesn't begin the same way for everyone. For some, it starts in treatment. For others, it starts in survival. And harm reduction is often the bridge between the two. People often say harm reduction is enabling. And my response is, yeah, it is. It enabled me to stay alive. It enabled me to get better when I was ready, to rebuild my life, to do the things that make me proud, and to do the things that make my family proud. And now it enables me to give back to people who are still where I once was. Because harm reduction isn't replaced recovery for me, but it made it possible. What I found in traditional recovery spaces at times was a feeling of either being in or being out, sober or not, welcome or not. What I found in harm reduction was community. I was welcome no matter my status. Having a child gave me another kind of community, and it taught me something important. Drug use is not a moral failure. I've met people who use drugs and are loving, attentive, incredible parents. Your use alone doesn't define who you are. The opposite of addiction is connection. The opposite of isolation is connection. And we lose people when we turn addiction into a moral judgment instead of a human reality. So today, I ask you, especially those working in recovery and those working in harm reduction, to stop seeing ourselves as separate, to stop working in silos, to remember that we are serving the same people, just at different moments in their lives. Because the people we serve don't live in categories. They move back and forth, they struggle, they try again, they relapse, they survive. And sometimes, eventually, they recover. And at every one of those moments, they need community. So let's stop asking, which side are you on? And start asking, how can we support you today? Let's build pathways instead of walls, warm handoffs instead of closing doors, conversations instead of judgments. That might mean recovery spaces learning to sit with people who aren't ready yet. It might mean harm reduction spaces staying connected to treatment when someone asks for help. It means sharing resources, sharing language, and sharing responsibility. Because when we work together, people don't fall through the cracks. They're caught. And that is what real community looks like. I ask you to erase what you think you know from headlines and stigma, to forget the noise, and remember my face. Someone who's been on the inside. Someone who found her way out, not through shame, but through support. Not everyone can quit the way society thinks that they should. Sometimes the help has to come first. Just like the card, just like the call, and the people who showed up before I was ready to save myself.
And now from Vermont's congressional delegation, I'd like to welcome Maggie Burke to read a letter from Senator Bernie Sanders. And we have Carolyn Wesley who will read a letter from Becca Ballant, and we have Robin Lunge from the office of Senator Welch. So I know they would want to be here if they could, but we're going to go with some letters and videos, and thank you, Maggie.
Good afternoon. My name's Maggie Burke. I'm an outreach representative for Senator Sanders. One of the issue areas I cover is healthcare, which includes substance use disorder and recovery. I've got this letter here from the senator to share. He sends his regrets he couldn't be here, and my Senator Sanders impression is not great, so use your imagination as I'm reading it that it's in his voice. Dear friends, thank you for gathering to honor the pathways to recovery from substance use, mental health challenges, and co-occurring conditions here in Vermont. Let me be clear. Our country faces dual mental health and substance use crises, and I believe we must do everything we can to expand access and effective care. Mental health is a central component of overall well-being. It is imperative that the many people who cope daily with some type of mental health condition have access to mental and behavioral health care. Unfortunately, I hear all too often from Vermonters who struggle to access and afford care. In the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we must guarantee mental health care as a human right. When people are in crisis, they need help today. They should not be put on a waiting list to be seen months from now. As this country continues to deal with a massive shortage of mental health care professionals, I believe that we must break down barriers to entry and invest in prospective behavioral health care providers, particularly in rural and underserved areas. That is why I led the Bipartisan Support for Patients and Communities Reauthorization Act of 2025. Signed into law in December 2025, this bill reauthorized numerous programs at the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, all focused on prevention, treatment, and recovery for those with substance use disorder and mental health conditions. These programs allow SAMHSA to provide funds to community-based programs that offer harm reduction and recovery services to first responders to more effectively respond to suspected overdoses and to support initiatives to educate the public and healthcare providers on opioid use. Further, the Support Act increased the amount of federal funds available for the loan repayment program for substance use disorder treatment professionals and SAMHSA's Youth Prevention and Recovery Program, focused on prevention, recovery, support, and treatment of substance use disorders in children, adolescents, and young adults. These programs are critical to saving lives, and I'm committed to ensuring that these programs continue to be implemented effectively. Thank you again for all you do to create pathways to recovery in our state and help Vermonters get the care they need. Sincerely, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Say a welcome real quick. Excellent. Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Lunge. I'm Senator Welch's policy advisor and outreach representative, and he was very sorry he couldn't be here today, but we had him record a video for you.
Hello, Senator Peter Welch here. Thank you all for coming together for Recovery Day 2026. This day celebrates all of you who are engaging in recovery, and it brings together so many people from all parts of the recovery community. People with lived experience, family members, providers, policymakers, and others. We're not only celebrating recovery, we're also honoring courage. Recovery is not a straight line. It's a series of brave choices made in quiet moments, on hard mornings, and in the face of doubt. It's choosing to stay, it's choosing to ask for help, it's choosing to try again. And today, across Vermont, we recognize the incredible strength it takes to do that work. Vermont has always been a place where people look out for one another. Recovery reflects that spirit. It reminds us that mental health and substance use challenges, they're not moral failures, they're human experiences. And recovery is not just about surviving. It's about reclaiming purpose, reclaiming dignity, and reclaiming possibility. After today's convening, I hope you leave committed to building a Vermont where help is accessible, stigma has no home, and every person knows they're not alone.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Wesley. I'm honored to be here to represent Congresswoman Becca Ballant.
She is someone for whom the issues of mental health and substance use are very important, both personally and policy-wise, and I'm happy to read this statement on her behalf. Dear Vermont recovery community, I'm sorry that I cannot be with you in person, but I am grateful for the opportunity to highlight the importance of recovery, growth, and the strength of every individual in this community. Each of you deserves to be seen, honored, and celebrated. Each year, Vermont loses hundreds of members of our community, and every loss ripples outwards, devastating families, friends, and entire towns. This is a heartbreak that I know we all share. We are here today to celebrate recovery, but we also have to name what stands in its way: shame, stigma, and the courage it takes to overcome both. Shame is something we all know. It can feel like a wall built too high to see over, blocking out the light on the other side. It's heavy, isolating, and too often it makes people feel like they should suffer in silence. Over the past year, we've watched the Trump administration weaponize shame, slashing healthcare, working to dismantle affordable mental health resources, and repeatedly attack LGBTQ rights. We've been told we're not allowed to be who we are, and we're not allowed to ask for help. Right now, our media landscape is saturated with negativity. It's nearly impossible to escape. Even when we're not looking at it, we're told we're not enough, that we're alone, that we're lost. And yet, we're still here, standing. I haven't given up. That's the boss talking. And neither have you. Here in Washington, I've introduced a slate of mental health legislation and sent letters directly to the Trump administration demanding accountability for the harm they have caused. For example, I sent the Trump administration a letter demanding they reverse their termination of almost $2 billion in SAMHSA grants. Shortly after that letter was sent, the administration reversed the cuts. I understand that showing up with courage is hard, and that's why it's all the more important. Every one of us needs someone willing to stand beside us, steady the ladder, and remind us that the sun is just beyond the wall. Shame, when left alone, can choke our growth, but with care and connection, it can be pulled out by the roots, making room to heal. Recovery of any kind is rarely quick or easy. It's slow, deliberate work. It asks us to reach for small joys, to hold them tightly, and to keep going even when progress feels invisible. No one recovers alone. So today, Congresswoman Balint congratulates the Recovery Day 2026 awardees and congratulates all of you for the courage it takes to keep showing up for yourselves and for one another. It takes real strength to resist shame, to keep advocating, and to continue doing the hard work. Please know that I am cheering you on every step of the way. Please remember that I am thinking of you and fighting for you every day from Washington, D.C. Onward with courage. Sincerely, Becca Balint.
With that, we have reached the end of our program. I just want to share a few words with you in conclusion, and just a reminder that we can go up to the People's House, and at 3:30 they'll recognize us on the floor of the House. We'll sit in the lower balcony all together if we can, and so please feel free to go up there. There might be legislators in the cafeteria. There will be resources around. There is different testimony and other things going on. I urge you, maybe grab a cupcake and go to a person you don't know and give it to them, and just feel free to mingle with one another. I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, is it any wonder that today's theme sort of accidentally ended up on being on mothers, because mothers are some of those people who carry the most unconditional love, and one of our greatest challenges is to find unconditional love for ourselves. Hopefully our moms will carry that love forward and help us find that self-love and that self-care. Thank you so much for coming to Recovery Day. I want to just share a few last thoughts. The anthropologist Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." I don't feel like we're a small group anymore. There are over 50,000 Vermonters in recovery. There are over 10,000 on medication-assisted treatment. There are, there's a book called The Addiction Inoculation, also by a Vermonter, and we are inoculating our communities by building community. We are building strength in one another. I want to, we must not forget that approximately 2,000 people have died since 2010 of opioid overdoses. Alcohol use disorders represent 75% of all substance use disorders. We have increasing amounts of other things. And so we're fighting an ever-changing battle. But one thing that does not change ever is the strength that we can find in one another, that no matter what comes into our communities, that if we build stronger communities and opportunities, if we heal together, we can overcome this over time. And the arc of history is speeding up. I truly believe that. I personally, no matter what I've seen and what I've experienced, I've lost 2 of my own first cousins on the streets of Brattleboro just in the last year and a half. And that's, that's a profound loss. And yet I remain hopeful when I see events like this. And in the arc of progress, in 1935, 2 farm kids from Vermont ended up creating a program that has 2 million active members and has saved countless lives. And from 1935 and for almost the next 60 years, that was recovery. That was the chief methodology. These 2 Vermonters changed the world. And at the same time, in 1993, 34 years ago, the Upper Valley Turning Point Center opened, and now we have 12 of them. The recovery community, and I use that term broadly as we've talked about with harm reduction, that these things, prevention, recovery, treatment, interdiction, intervention, they are in so many settings now, in the carceral system, in the hospitals, embedded with EMTs and other medical personnel. They are embedded at every level of our society, and the more and more we get in those rooms, I am confident that the voices of hope will prevail, and you are those voices of hope. We have hope. We are the hope. Keep being yourselves. Keep sharing your story. Keep supporting one another. I just want to express, I saw her here a minute ago. Again, I want to really express thanks to DSU, which is a tremendous supporter of this day. Eve, of course, Jeff Henneberry, I saw Roy Belcher. Emily Truder is, as we speak, at her computer working on the Rural Health Transformation Act proposals, which could bring monumental change over the next couple of years. We don't know what that change will look like, but it'll be change. And so she has been a tremendous division director and brought Vermont to the national level. I saw Nicole Rao-Midigi. She's been, I don't know exactly what the title is now, but harm reduction program manager, I believe, but has been an incredible ally in the work that has come. Also want to acknowledge Susie Walker, who went from being Recovery Center Director to working at Faces and Voices of Recovery, and now the Director of Recovery Partners of Vermont. All of our contributors,
And again, all of you were partners in this work, so let's keep doing good work together and save lives. Thank you.